Thank you for the fans and the competitors, but more importantly, we thank you for the men and women who fight to protect our freedoms in this great country. We thank you for their families and the sacrifice. And most importantly, we thank you for your son, Jesus, who paid the ultimate sacrifice so that we could be made right with you. And it's in his name that we give you glory today. And we just thank you for this event in Jesus' name. Amen.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome the legendary voice of the Chicago Blackhawks, Jim Cornelison.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ring glare from bursting in air, did prove through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the
Win and you advance. That's what the Chasers are thinking about as they start off this first race of the chase. Drivers like Tony Stewart, Brad Keselowski, they've won on it before. They've won that first race, as has Matt Kenseth and Denny Hamlin.
Everybody ready, set, go. There's a party in the fast lane. Got my hands on the wheel and I'm flying. Heartbeat loud as the thunder rolls. Riding in on a stampede of lightning. I'm bringing back the sunshine. Bringing back the sunshine. Baby, it's about time. Oh, bring it back. Oh, yeah.
Welcome to NBCSN's coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing from Chicagoland Speedway. Telecast presented by Toyota. Many storylines that we'll be covering today. We go to pit road and Dave Burns.
This is the fourth chase appearance for Martin Truex Jr., and last year he made it to the championship four with a truly underdog team. With a new team alliance this season, he has been at times Superman. Either way, Truex has proven he can fly. Kelly Stavis?
Dave, breaking news for the 2014 champ. Kevin Harvick will also be starting from the back. NASCAR penalizing him for a, quote, body modification. The crew chief, Rodney Childers, telling me they were unhappy with that left wheel opening. He's obviously very frustrated by the decision, but told me he feels like this car has the speed to work through the field, that they won't have to try any crazy strategy to get there. So watch for Kevin Harvick to be on the move. Mike Massaro.
Kelly, Denny Hamlin will be on the move as well, trying to do exactly what he did 1 year ago, and that would be win the chase opener. Hamlin told me that victory last year allowed them to relax so much, in fact, they were able to prepare for deeper in the chase. They're hoping to do the same thing here today, Marty.
Mike Adam Stevens, the crew chief for Kyle Busch, told me this morning it's been a rough week of practice for the defending champion. We had a vibration on Friday. Saturday, we finally got to work on the car. I expect Kyle Busch to be up front, though, by the end of it. Time to get the chase going and crank the engines.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your grand marshals. He's the voice of Michelangelo, Nickelodeon's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Greg Sipes, with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Donatello, also joined by the kids of NASCAR.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, on behalf of Nickelodeon and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we're here to kick off the biggest party in the world! Drivers, start your engines! Woo!
All right, buddy, fire it up.
I can go ahead and crank it up. Fire it up.
Bring it up. Fire it up. Okay, start when you're ready. All right, man, go ahead and fire it up.
And with the engines firing, the pressure is real. 16 drivers, 10 races. It all starts right here at Chicagoland. The pressure is on to win the championship in the 2016 season.
Win the King's car. Now through September 27th, hustle over to any of the participating stores, grab some Smithfield products, and you're entered to win the replica of the King's 67 Belvedere. For details, go to winning43.com.
The pressure of the playoffs is unlike anything else. The first race starts and it's on. Every lap counts, every position counts.
You want to win and set the tone for the chase.
If you have the opportunity to take advantage of something to win a race, you're going to take it.
Every decision they make could determine if they're going to win the championship.
Brad Keselowski wins at Chicagoland.
It's Hamlin that will win at Chicagoland.
What an amazing day.
You have to go out there and try to win.
Welcome back to Chicagoland Speedway, Joliet, Illinois. Just under an hour from downtown Chicago and Lake Michigan, as the grid sitting on pit road about to roll off for their first laps. Let's take a look at the starting grid, brought to you by Toyota. Now, the grid was set by points because of no qualifying on Friday. Up front, because of points, Kyle Busch, 31-year-old out of Las Vegas, Nevada, 2008 Chicagoland winner, and Brad Keselowski, the 32-year-old out of Rochester Hills, Michigan.
Road 2 is made up of two 10-time chasers. Denny Hamlin, the Daytona 500 champion, will start next to Kevin Harvick, who will have to start from the rear of the field for body modifications.
In row 3, we have Carl Edwards, who started next to Martin Truex Jr., who has led the most laps on mile-and-a-half tracks in 2016.
Back in row 4, Matt Kenseth, the 44-year-old out of Cambridge, Wisconsin, was the 2013 Chicagoland winner.
Row 5, we have 26-year-old Joey Logano starting next to Kyle Larson, who's in his first ever chase, but will join Kevin Harvick at the rear of the field today.
Yeah, row 6, we have Tony Stewart, who's won in Chicagoland 3 times, starting next to Kurt Busch.
Row 7 has 2 chase drivers making their first Chicagoland Cup Series start, Chris Buescher and Chase Elliott.
Row 8, we have Austin Dillon making his first chase appearance in his 3rd season behind the wheel, starting next to Jamie McMurray, who's in his 2nd consecutive chase.
In row 9, we have Alex Bowman, who's going to drive this 88 car in 8 of the final 10 races this year, and Ryan Newman.
Back in row 10, the 5 of Casey Kane. He could be the chase spoiler. He was top 10 in both practices yesterday.
In row 11, we have A.J. Allmendinger and Ryan Blaney still looking for that first win of his rookie season.
In row 12, we have 2 Roush Fenway teammates, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Greg Biffle.
Back in row 13, it's Danica Patrick and Paul Menard. Paul Menard has 1 Chicagoland top 10 finish.
In row 14, we have Eric Almirola and Clint Boyer. The 43 of Almirola will also be going to the rear of the field.
In row 15, we have from the famous Mears family, Casey Mears starting next to Michael McDowell.
We've got an opportunity to chat with one of the drivers about ready to start the chase, and that would be Kyle Larson. Let's dial him up on the radio, Jeff.
Hey, Kyle, it's Jeff. You with us?
Yes, sir.
Well, bud, you're getting ready to start your first championship battle in the Sprint Cup Series. Tell us what's on your mind right now.
What's on my mind right now is how I'm going to get back to the front after our transmission change. So, got a long ways to come from, starting at the back, but should be all right. We were good in 2014 from the back, so excited about it. Our Coca-Cola Chevy's been quick in practice, so just got to stay calm, stay patient, be smart, complete our laps, and hopefully we can make it through this first round and on to keep on chasing the championship.
Well, with having to start in the back, tell us how much harder it is to make decisions coming to the back. How aggressive can you afford to be?
Yeah, it's tough. You got to be aggressive. The first couple laps while everybody's bunched up there. But, with that comes some risk. It's as much traffic as I've been in a while. And the leaders are always coming fast, too. So hopefully we don't get too long of a run here. And we can, catch some brakes, get a couple cautions, and, work our way up through pit stops and stuff and strategy and, just kind of race from there.
Thank you, Kyle, for taking some time for us, and good luck today.
Thank you, guys.
Now, Kyle Larson has been competitive in race cars since the age of 5, and starting in the back might not be too bad for him.
My dad built me a little go-kart to play around in when I was 4.
Are you finished? You've been racing for a half hour.
I want to start from the back.
You want to start from the back?
Why?
Because see how good I am passing.
Kyle is the type that needs a rabbit to chase. If he's got somebody in front of him,
it makes him even better.
Guys, he's got a few people in front of him today.
Well, I like what he had to say about measuring the aggressiveness versus the patience. That's what we want to see out of this young man, is a little bit more patience. He always shows speed, Jeff.
Speed is not the question. It's just understanding what he's got to do to advance. If you have problems getting the wall too much, it's going to hurt your opportunity to win a championship.
Leading the field is 2016 Toyota Camry, the official pace car for today's race. And lights already off on that Toyota Camry. We'll ride along with a few different drivers, one of those being Kyle Larson in the 42. Initially supposed to start 10th, but again, we'll have to drop to the back with his sprint in-car camera. Joey Logano has the Coca-Cola on board and will start 9th today. 78 of Martin Truex Jr. has the Sunoco onboard camera and will start in row 3. Kevin Harvick starts in row 2 in the 4th position today and will carry a camera so we can watch how well he does. He also has to go to the back. Brad Keselowski in the number 2 has the Ford onboard camera. Will start up front in the 2nd position. And also on the front row with the Toyota in-car camera is Kyle Busch starting on pole. Not only will we ride along with a few of the drivers, but we'll also have some great pictures from high atop this racetrack. The aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. Let's take a look at today's GE track facts for this 1.5-mile track. It's a 267 lap race, just over 400 miles. Pit road speed difficult to get down to. That's 45 miles per hour. And everyone's going to be watching to make sure they don't make mistakes on pit road. But the fuel window, 57 to 60 laps, meaning, Steve, that they're going to be on pit road a minimum of 4 times.
Yeah, the Sunoco fuel can last about 60 laps, and so can the Goodyear tires. It's really a question about how far these drivers want to go. New tires have much more speed and much more grip, so it's going to be a great strategy call by crew chiefs to decide when to come down pit road.
As I mentioned moments ago, the 4 will have to go to the back. Body modifications, and NASCAR penalized them by saying you will have to go to the rear of the field for the start of this race, and this was earlier on pit road.
Yeah, we see some team members trying to fix what NASCAR didn't like. There's a NASCAR crew member right there in the light gray shirt leaning over, kind of showing the team what they want to do. But, Jeff, we've talked about the pressure of the chase, and now here are 2 chasers, the 4 of Kevin Harvick and the 42 of Kyle Larson, that already have adversity, and we haven't even seen the green flag yet.
That's right. We talk about the challenges of the chase and winning this championship and who is going to have to overcome the first challenges. Well, here they are. The race has not even started, and these guys have already lost very, very good starting position. So how they handle this first part of the race is going to be critical to their success in this race.
One of the things we've seen before out of the 4 of Kevin Harvick, he's pretty good with pressure. In must-win situations, he's always been able to advance. Toyota Camry pace car off the racetrack. That leaves the field in the hands of Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski as they come into the start zone for the first race of the chase. We're underway in Chicagoland.
See, already cars are trying to test that outside line. This is a multiple groove racetrack. Cars trying to run the middle, the top. They're going to be all over this racetrack.
And with qualifying rained out, Rick, the fact that all of these chase drivers are starting together, I think makes these first few laps even more challenging.
Mention the pressure that these drivers are under. They cannot have a bad race. It was proven a year ago by Jamie McMurray, who had an average finish in the first 3 races of under a 12th place position, and he did not advance to the round of 12. Right now, battle for position between the 11 of Denny Hamlin and the 2 of Brad Keselowski. Hamlin on the inside, Keselowski right in the middle of the track. All of the chase drivers will have a yellow bar underneath their name across the top of the screen. They also have yellow on the splitter, yellow on the spoiler, and a yellow banner on their windshield. That will indicate the chase drivers for the 2016 season. Martin Truex Jr. has been dominant on mile-and-a-half tracks in the 2016 season. On the right of your screen, you see him chasing down the 2 of Brad Keselowski.
What's even more impressive, on the left of your screen, you see the 4 of Kevin Harvick and the 42, that red and white 42 of Kyle Larson moving up through traffic. Both cars, since the start, have already passed over 12 other positions.
And Steve, I talked to Kyle Larson about starting at the back of the field, and he did mention that video we showed of him asking his dad if he could start at the back of the field when he was in a go-kart, but he has more recent experience with that. In fact, here at Chicagoland in 2014, he had to start at the back of the field that day. What happened at the end of the race? He almost won it. He finished third. He and Brad Keselowski were battling at the very end, but Kyle said, I've done it before, we can do it again. And plus, the high line, certainly in effect this weekend. He loves to run that high line, doesn't he?
Biggest movers so far, the 4 and 42. 2 chase drivers having a start in the back, and they're making their way to the front very quickly.
Well, we were on board with the 42 through turns 3 and 4 as he passed Danica Patrick, and Marty mentioned the high line. What I liked about that is his patience on the bottom of the racetrack. He let the 10 slide up. Now, again, on board with him, the 16 out front. He's going to be patiently around this white line. See how he carries that momentum off the corner to pass the 16. Shows a little versatility in his car already.
That's right, and the patience is because right now the track is going to be very dirty. You don't want to be the first person up on top of that second groove, a third groove. It's okay to run right here in the middle, but the track right against the wall, you really want somebody else to clean that up. You see Greg Biffle with a big move in the middle of the corner. Kyle Larson going to take advantage.
Kyle makes it look so easy to run up the racetrack. It's just a comfort zone for him, Rick. There's something about it. He understands his entry speed, how aggressive to be back to the gas. He consistently does it at all of these tracks that offer a second line.
I love the way we use the word comfort zone when they're going nearly 200 miles an hour when they enter turn number 1. The 4 definitely on the move.
Well, he's already passed his first chaser. The 34 of Chris Buescher was running in the 21st position. Kevin Harvick passed him. Those are the moments that Chris Buescher has to kind of take a deep breath, understand his chase. His chase is to go and run well and hope they have issues in front of him.
You see a battle for third place right here. Brad Keselowski trying to keep Martin Truex from behind, but we talked about at the start, Martin Truex has had the fastest car on mile-and-a-half all year long. This is where they need to be successful. Big move on the bottom. 2 different lines. You talked about it, Steve. You can run all over this racetrack. Brad taking the middle, the 78 of Truex taking the bottom.
Really no out of bounds. We saw Martin Truex Jr. go all the way to the apron when he went across the front grandstands.
The Brad's as high as we have seen anybody. That's the highest we've seen anybody through 3 and 4. Again, the only danger in doing that is it's a little bit dirty right now. The track is set all night. A lot of dust gets built up on the racetrack. It only takes a few cars, though, and it'll clean it up quickly.
And something about this racetrack, Rick, whether it's the shape of the straightaways or the way the angle of the sun hits it, we've seen the top of 1 and 2 come in much quicker. In the Xfinity race, they ran the top of 1 and 2 earlier in their run. They seem to have a little bit more opportunity there versus the bottom of 3 and 4, which is where Martin Truex in the 78 is right now.
Completely different lines being run by the 2 of Brad Keselowski and the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. Dave.
And Rick, Truex's crew chief, Cole Pern, told me they worked the bottom of the racetrack most of the practice. Not necessarily because they expected to stay there the whole time, but because that's where the good rubber was during practice. They moved up as needed, but that's where their comfort level was in practice.
See the 4 getting by the 21 of Ryan Blaney. So Kevin Harvick continuing to move up. He's already up to 16th now.
11 really slow. He's got debris on his grill.
And it went off. Just as you were talking about it, it blew off.
And those are the small brakes that can help you if that debris stays on there. The 11's going to have to pit to cool his car down, get some more air to the radiator. So a good brake that it comes off. But how about on the left side of your screen? We mentioned Kevin Harvick had got by the 34 of Chris Buescher. Well, now he's on to his second chase competitor, the 3 of Austin Dillon.
And if you're Austin Dillon and you know Kevin Harvick started in the back and you're sitting there running 16th and he's going by you, that is intimidating. That is, hey, we do not have close enough speed right now today. We've got to go to work big time. And a smart move by Denny Hamlin. The reason we saw Denny Hamlin so slow into that corner is he wanted to get behind another car. He wanted to get behind somebody to have the air change to try to pull that debris off the grill. It worked, fortunately for him, but that was smart thinking.
And here goes Kevin Harvick looking to take another chaser and put him behind him. As he gets up to Tony Stewart, Martin Truex Jr. working with the 11, and Kyle Busch out front since the drop of the green flag. He's led all 11 laps that have been completed. Kyle Busch out front. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Bank of America. Life's better when we're connected. Progressive. Stay on track with great rates at progressive.com. And by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. NASCAR Race View gives you access to features that let you follow your favorite driver as if you're at the track. Get live stats, leaderboards, driver and team communications, and more on all your devices. It's available now for an all-new low price when you visit NASCAR.com/raceview. Welcome back to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 400, riding along with Kevin Harvick. And this is what he tweeted out a week ago. My mood for the next 11 weeks? Well, he is living that right now. Elbows up. He has gone from the back all the way up to 11.
He is trying to pass Ryan Newman here for 10th. It's lap 18. I mean, that is, you just said it, Steve, a minute ago. We haven't seen anything like this all year. I mean, this is the most impressive run to start a race or at any point in the race that I've seen all year.
Yeah, and what is he doing? Race 1, he's setting the tone. He said it with his tweet, now he's doing it on the racetrack. You are going to have to contend with me all 10 weeks. I don't care if I started in the rear. As he passed the 31, he's already passed 5 other Chase drivers.
I have to ask you, though, is he being too aggressive? I mean, these tires can wear out. This is an old surface, a 15-year-old racetrack. It could tear the tires off if he's too hard, couldn't it?
I think it just shows how fast his race car is. He still isn't running lap times that the leaders are running. He's just proving these cars in traffic he's better than them, and the leaders had better take note, Kelly.
And when Kevin was asked to kind of explain that tweet, he said it just meant I was excited. I think it's definitely that you have to find another level when you get to this time of year. You've got to be that raging lunatic a little bit at this time of year, but it has been impressive what he's done. First 5 laps, I should say, he gained 15 positions, 21 positions in the first 10 laps, and he was up 26 spots by lap 15.
Yeah, and Kelly, it's a mentality also in every, no matter what sport it is, a battle for the lead right here. Truex on the outside of Busch.
We talk about another mentality. Here's the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. So good at the mile-and-a-half racetracks. We watched him dominate at the Coca-Cola 600. Here he is, the first mile-and-a-half race of the Chase. He drives up and passes the leader.
He made that look easy. Martin Truex Jr. on the high side goes by the 18. Kyle Busch, and now Kyle Busch back to second. Marty.
And Rick, the handling going away a little bit on the 18. About 4 laps ago, Kyle radioed to the team. He said the right rear feels like it's loose, meaning it's wanting to spin out almost, loose off the corner for Kyle Busch.
See right behind Kyle Busch, the 2 of Brad Keselowski. He's also seemed to find a little bit of speed as he moves around the racetrack.
And we talk about hurting tires and being too aggressive. You know, as fast as Kevin Harvick is, his car is driving well. And I think a fast car that drives well is easier on tires than a car that doesn't drive well and isn't as fast. So to me, speed a lot of times is about how good the car is. And I think a good car is way easier on tires than a bad car.
The car just behind Kyle Busch now is the 2 of Brad Keselowski. We listened into his radio just moments ago.
Will be the first corner. Truex is off the bottom about 30%. Made a little gain on you. He's in line by 2. A little bit higher than he ran to catch you. You were about 40 or 50. He was about 30. You were a minority up there. Other than Harvick. Harvick's way in the back, running 80%, making waves.
And they're not just giving information as far as if there's somebody down low or somebody up high. They're giving lines for these drivers. That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less.
One thing I found interesting about that is he said Harvick was way in the back. No, he's not. He's coming quickly.
And guys, we ride along with Brad Keselowski. That was a spotter, Joey Meyer, you heard a moment ago. And Brad and Joey have a deal. He wants to know, Brad wants to know where everybody's running on the racetrack. This is a very line-sensitive racetrack. We'll see people on the bottom, people in the middle like Brad is right now, people all the way up by the wall. And Brad wants to know what car is making the best time and where they're running. So he asked Joey, constantly keep me updated on that. Jeff, as a driver, how critical is that at a place like Chicagoland?
It is very important, Marty, because there are so many different options, and the track changes throughout the day as the rubber gets put onto the racetrack. The track heats up with the sun. The best groove can move around and change, and you get stuck as a driver into a runner running where your car is the best at that particular time. But you need to go search around where the fastest car is and figure out what your car needs to do in that line, so when you pit, you can make a change to your car and make it so you can be in that fastest groove.
A little further back, started 13th. Chris Buescher has fallen all the way back to 24th. Mike.
And the car's been a little bit free throughout the course of this run, Rick, but let's not lose sight of the fact that Chris Buescher and this 34 team, they're the Cinderella of this chase. By virtue of their victory in Pocono, they're the 16 seed. They face very long odds in terms of winning this championship, but perhaps Chris Buescher can draw some inspiration from one of his team members, one of the over-the-wall members, Kevin Richardson. He's the front tire carrier for this team. Today he'll be carrying tires, but in his past life, he carried footballs. He was a running back for Appalachia State, has 4 rushing records there. In fact, he played on the team that beat Michigan in 2007. One of the biggest upsets in college football history. Just how big was it? Vegas didn't even have a line on that game. Kevin Richardson could certainly serve as an inspirational tool for this team as they try to knock off some of the heavy hitters here in NASCAR and advance to the round of 12.
That's great. He knows about upsets, and that's exactly what Chris Buescher wants to do. He wants to upset some people here and potentially advance into the round of 12. Kevin Harvick, what an incredible story Kevin Harvick has been. After starting in the back, he's about to pass Joey Logano for the 8th position.
And Rick, we talked about he's already passed. That will make his 8th chaser, so he's halfway through the chase field. And it was one thing to pass Chris Buescher, who's struggling a little bit. Austin Dillon, Tony Stewart don't seem to have the best cars. But Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano, they're championship favorites on a lot of people's grids. Here they are running inside the top 10. Kevin Harvick spots them the entire field and catches them in only 29 laps.
And doesn't seem to be slowing down as he was able to get up into the top 10, now running 8th, has Carl Edwards in front of him. The top 10 all chase drivers. The first non-chase driver, Ryan Newman, running 11th. Casey Kane running 12th, has moved up. So Casey Kane trying to be a spoiler, but Martin Truex Jr. out front. Kyle Larson definitely impressive at Chicagoland. He has a 5th place average finish at this racetrack, and Sprint's network reliability is now within 1%. Verizon switch today, save 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rates. Visit a Sprint store or sprint.com/network today. Out front, it's Martin Truex Jr. He has a 3.5-second lead. over Kyle Busch, who's dropped back to second, Brad Keselowski, and Jimmy Johnson, who's running in the 4th spot. Chase Elliott is 5th. The guy we have been definitely keeping our eye on has definitely been the 4 of Kevin Harvick. Let's see who is on the move, brought to you by Tire Rack. Definitely the 4. Look at that, 30 position.
How about poor Kyle Larson? He's plus 21, and that's not good enough to lead this category. Kevin Harvick decides to go plus 30.
Very impressive so far. Casey Kane, as I mentioned earlier, has made his way up to 12th. Another driver on the move. Marty.
And I would say, Rick, on any other day, Kyle Larson will be patted on the back for what he's doing. From 40th, he's gained 21 positions, now in the 19th position, and coming up through the field, continuing to make progress, just passing Alex Bowman there. Steve, I would say normally you would be happy with your driver if he started 40th and made his way up to 19th, wouldn't you? But today, that's paling in comparison to what Kevin Harvick is doing.
Well, I think this is the battle, Marty, that all of these drivers, crew chiefs, team spotter, everybody's going to have to understand. How hard do you push? Do you let Kevin Harvick's dominant performance so far moving up to the field change your strategy, or you do pump your driver up about how good he's doing? We've talked about this, Jeff, as we see Brad Keselowski pass Kyle Busch for second. Right now, if you're Matt Kenseth, you're running 10th out of 10 chasers. So is 10th good or is 10th bad because you're behind 9 other chase contenders?
Well, that is the problem. You look up, you see all these cars that are in the chase, they have these yellow spoilers. And when you're out there running, you're having a good day. You're running 10th, but you look up and everything in front of you has a yellow spoiler also. So 10th isn't good enough today. So it raises the intensity then knowing that Harvick potentially even could make his car better on a pit stop. You have to go make changes. You have to try to make your car better.
Driver who has been having a good day, currently running in the top 5, is Jimmy Johnson in the 48. Kelly.
And Rick, it's really no secret that the performance of this team hasn't quite been where they would like it to be, although they said they continue to build and find some speed. Chad Knaus, his crew chief, told me today that he thinks they have a top 10 car and they're hoping for a top 10 finish. Jimmy Johnson running 4th, and here's what he had to say about the 48.
Little free most of the track. Freer down at 3 and 4. It's like the right rear never sets in the track.
And then Chad Knaus answered with, well, I knew that would happen if we made the car turn a little bit better in 1 and 2, and now we know how to fix it. So we'll look for some changes coming on the 48 when they get down to pit road.
And if I know Chad Knaus, I believe the 48 is better than a top 10 car. And I've worked with Chad for a lot of years, and he is always one to criticize when they have a good race car, always one to downplay it, and I think he's downplaying it. I think this 48 of Jimmy Johnson has definitely found speed this weekend, Jeff, and I believe he's running in the 4th position, and he's proven he has a top 5 car.
The question is, can they execute? Because what we have seen when they have had speed the last few weeks, they haven't been able to execute. Bad pit stops and bad strategy, getting caught doing some stuff on pit road they weren't supposed to be doing by NASCAR. So they're going to have to execute with this faster race car.
Marty, how about his teammate that's also a chaser, Chase Elliott?
And also in the top 5 as well, Rick. I asked him a moment ago before he climbed in the car, any nerves going into your first ever playoffs? He said, no, not really. I said, why? He said, because of the man on top of the pit box. Alan Gustafson has now taken 4 drivers to the chase 9 different times. He said that experience is so undervalued. Just his calmness that he brings our race team kind of makes me calm. And then we're going into this playoff just to have fun. That's our approach, our mentality. Jeff, you were a young driver one time, had a very experienced crew chief. How key is that when you're behind the wheel, especially when you're battling for a championship?
Oh, I think experience around you is very important. Remember, Bill Elliott, his father, has been in that championship battle too. So Chase has grown up around this environment, understands. He's seen it through his father, living that life through his father. His crew chief helping him. Remember, his car owner, Rick Hendrick, also has a lot of championships. So he has a lot of different areas to lean on for a little bit of comfort.
Martin Truex Jr. has now led over 800 laps on 1.5 miles this season. The next best, Kevin Harvick. He's led 261 laps, and that number might be growing as Kevin Harvick continues to move from the back to the front. Harvick already running in the 8th position. He's freaky fast again today. green flag pit stops had just started, and some cars on pit road when the caution just came out. Is that an advantage?
Well, it's going to be an advantage for some, a disadvantage for others. It's going to be a scoring nightmare for a moment. It's going to have to cycle around. We're going to have to find the leader, Martin Truex Jr. He's going to have to be picked up by the pace car. The caution was for a loose tire on pit road, and with no exterior pit wall, that tire can get out into the grass, so NASCAR is forced to call a caution. And this is going to turn the tables all upside down.
So Martin Truex, the leader of the race, he had not gotten on pit road yet, so that's going to put a lot of drivers a lap down. But remember with the pass-around rule, when they pit, they're going to come out. They're going to be on pit road. Everybody that did pit will go around him because he's on pit road. And then with one to go, they'll get the pass around. So they won't. A lot of these cars won't ultimately be a lap down, but they're going to lose a lot of track position.
Yes,
and
exactly
the rule is once you're on pit road, if the caution comes out, that's when they close pit road and they put the red light up for pit road. If you're already on pit road, you can do your service, come off without a penalty. But if you would come onto pit road once that red light has come on at pit entrance, then you're penalized for pitting too soon. So the ones that were already on pit road, they'll be able to do their service, get back out onto the racetrack.
Well, and the other issue is it's just not as simple, Rick, as how the race cars are on the racetrack, because while you're on pit road, as you see this tire roll across pit road, this is what the penalty is for. But as you are on pit road, there it goes, it gets away and starts to come across pit road. So you see Jimmy Johnson on pit road. What I'm saying is when the caution comes out, the leader slows down. You then are scored to either the start-finish line on pit road or pit out relative to the leader. It seems very confusing because it is a bit confusing.
Right.
And NASCAR is going to have to go through this, look at the cameras, understand the locations, and try to get scoring situated before they open pit road for the race leader of Martin Truex. When it comes to NASCAR and oval track racing, this is probably the most confusing situation when you have a caution during green flag pit stops.
And we've talked about mistakes on pit road, and that one was a mistake by the 43 team, Eric Almirola. Someone just didn't catch that wheel when it hit the wall, bounced off the wall, and then rolled back across pit road and onto the grass. Now, NASCAR Drive is NASCAR.com's live race day companion. Select your in-car video or camera angle. It's access integrated driver stats, lap-by-lap commentary, and social conversation, all in real time. You won't miss a lap when you visit NASCAR.com/drive on your personal computer now. So the first caution comes out just about the time when everyone was planning to come to pit road because of the green flag stops and the amount of fuel still in the car. Some came a little bit earlier. Jimmy Johnson was one of those. The 4 of Kevin Harvick was coming a little bit earlier. 78 of Martin Truex Jr. had stayed out on the track. Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, the top 5 all had not pitted yet.
And Rick, let's be clear. Pit road's clear. NASCAR wants to open pit road, but what they have to do is they have to confirm the scoring position. We've talked all week about pressure. We've talked all week about how important these races are. They're not just important to the competitors. The sanctioning body, NASCAR, has to be on their toes. Every call they make, every penalty they enforce, timing issues, scoring issues, they have to be crystal clear. So they're going to take a couple extra laps to make sure the field is correct on the racetrack before they open pit road.
All right, guys, let's take a look at today's Ram, Guts, and Glory. Risk versus reward.
Well, this is a race where you're going to want to take risk, because in taking risk at a mile-and-a-half racetrack, a slick mile-and-a-half racetrack, you can go faster and gain spots. But if you take too many risks, you get in the wall, you take away your opportunity to win a championship.
Well, why? Because winning is the ultimate reward. If you win today in Chicagoland, you don't have to worry about the round of 16. You've advanced. You're in the round of 12. You can almost relax at Dover, New Hampshire. Work on your equipment. Work on your employees. Enjoy the moment, because the round of 12 will be coming.
Relax. Have you ever relaxed as a crew chief or a driver?
Maybe in December.
For a day. All right, so pit road will be open as soon as they have figured out the proper scoring.
When they pit, this will all get cleared up. When everybody pits, it'll all get pretty clear.
Again, lead lap cars are allowed to come to pit road first. Then the lap down cars will come next. That will cycle all the way through. As you're seeing, yellow caution Pit stops coming up now, Dave.
Leader of 30 of the 51 laps so far this afternoon, Martin Truex Jr. comes to pit road. Car a little bit tight, air pressure change, 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel, Marty.
Hey, Brad Keselowski pits from second. He said the car was loose in, tight in the center, and loose on exit. On board, he adjusted the track bar down. He said that helped the entry, but did not help the exit. So you see the wedge adjustment to help that out a little bit. Chase Elliott said the car was loose at the beginning of the run, but then came to him 35 laps into a run. They're going to try and tighten it up at the beginning. And Kyle Busch at the very front end of pit road will use that number 1 pit stall to his advantage and a tight race off with Brad Keselowski. He said the car was a little bit too free at the beginning of the run.
Very close race off of pit road. Again, we'll cycle through the pit stops and let you know exactly where everyone will restart next. There are the spotters on top of the press box, and there was some interesting communication going between the Ford team about if they felt like they were called correctly on pit road. The spotter coverage brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. Steve, explain it to us.
Okay, so basically the 4 and the 11 and the 48 all come down pit road. The caution comes out while they're on pit road. So then the most important thing is where they get scored versus the leader. Luckily, where they are on pit road, they get scored to the start-finish line. So we found the shot that shows both the 4 and the 48 leaving their pit stalls. So as you see the 4 in the pit stall, the leader, the 78, is on the left side of the screen. He's rolling nice and slow because it's under caution. As he approaches the start-finish line, the 4 leaves his pit stall, the 48 leaves, and if you freeze it right there, the 78 is to the start-finish line. The 48 is in front of the 4 by maybe a couple feet. So the 48 beats the 78 to start-finish line, saving his lap. As you see, it creeps forward. The 4, what is that, 2 feet, Jeff?
Yeah, maybe less.
2 feet is what put the 4 of Kevin Harvick a lap down.
So the 4 was going to be okay, but he had to do 2 tires trying to beat the 78 off pit road. So to get other tires, he had to come back in and do 2 tires. Had he not had to do that, he would have taken the pass around like everybody else and beat on the lead lap. But he currently is a lap down in 21st because he had to pit it again to put 2 tires on.
8 drivers took the wave around, the 20, the 31, the 41, the 42, the 21, the 14, and the 3. All lined up behind Jimmy Johnson. Alex Bowman as they enter the restart zone. Green flag back in the air.
And we focused on those chasers, but the 88 of Alex Bowman also gained track position in the same manner.
3 wide as they go into turn 1. Denny Hamlin tries that high line.
And Casey Kane 3 wide on the very top of the white car.
Casey Kane taking advantage of a very good race car this weekend. As the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. moves up to 3rd.
So Logano aggressively in the middle, 3 wide. His yellow car.
And Jeff, we've had this conversation, but how about Alex Bowman, the young man trying to fill in for Dale Earnhardt Jr. in this 88? I think does a great job. Every time we've seen him in this 88 car, he's impressed me with his speed and his calmness over the radio.
Yeah, he does a really good job. It's been fast, been consistent, really haven't made many mistakes. Hadn't had the finishes he deserved, but really none of that was his fault.
And it looks as though the 11 of Denny Hamlin trying to get by Alex Bowman. Mike?
And yeah, they made an air pressure adjustment last time down pit road, Rick, to try to tighten that car up. It had gotten a little bit loose, and that's been a little bit of a challenge for this race team throughout the course of the weekend. They've been chasing the racetrack as it builds rubber, as it builds heat. The conditions of the race car change consistently, so they want to have some maneuverability in that race car so that they can run various lines and adjust to the changing track conditions. Right now, Hamlin's saying the car has good balance and good speed as he tries to move toward the front.
We were documenting where people came off of pit road and where they lined up. Kevin Harvick is being scored as the first driver 1 lap down in 21st. Now, he did come back to pit road to change 4 tires after being on pit road and trying to get out in front of the 78. But again, he's a lap down in the free pass position. Another chaser that's a lap down is Chris Buescher, running 24th. Let's listen into the 4 radio because there was a lot of confusion on the radio as to where they were in regards to the leader. This was under caution.
We misinterpreting the rule with the start-finish line, or we got to beat him off pit road, or what's going on here? I mean, I'm not sure. When I looked down, it was real close between the 78 and us crossing the start-finish in the pit box and us.
Yeah, listen, we had fortune to have slow motion.
Right.
We had to stop it to understand and see what happened. In live, there's no way we could have told who beat whom off pit road. So they did not understand where they were because they just couldn't see it in real time.
Well, if you're the driver, the 48 was next to me.
That's right.
How is he good?
Right.
Well, he wasn't really next to you. He was about 3 feet in front of you, and that's all it took.
Listen, I want to go back on that rule. Let's remind everybody, the reason that they were racing to the start-finish line was because they were pitted on the turn 4 side of the start-finish line. If they would have pitted on the turn 1 side of the start-finish line, they would have had to beat them to pit exit. So when you're looking at it in the future races, it matters where you're pitting if you're on turn 4 side or turn 1 side of the start-finish line.
And these are those moments in the chase. I talked to Rodney Childers this week, and remember this 4 had a fender rub last year, turned into a flat tire, had a great car, lost a bunch of points here at Chicago. He said, you know, if we could go back and do it again, we would approach it differently. We would have pitted, lost our lap, fixed our fender. That is the position this 4 is in. Kevin Harvick needs to just, I know this is hard to say, but relax. He's proven he's had a great race car. We still have 206 laps to go. Work yourself into the free pass position, get a caution, race from there. This will not end the 4's day. They just need to focus on what's in front of them.
But it shows you how hard it is to overcome a problem. So as fast as he was and as quick as he went to the front of the field, had he not been penalized, had he not had to start in the back, he wouldn't have been in this position. He would have been plenty ahead of the 78 car. So even though he did so good of just flying through the start finish, those penalties still hurt them. So little things matter. They just come back to haunt you.
Steve, you brought up a great point. He needs to just kind of relax. He's in the position where he's going to get a free pass, and we know he has speed, but there's no way he can unlap himself. No, he could not go all the way around this racetrack and get by Jimmy Johnson to unlap himself.
And at some point, Jimmy Johnson, the race leader, is going to start lapping other cars, and the 4 of Kevin Harvick can't prevent that. All he can do is go out, not get lapped again, run fast enough that Jimmy Johnson doesn't catch him on the racetrack, and wait. He will have an opportunity at some point to move up there as we see the 4 with a moment there behind Jamie McMurray and up the track a little bit.
Yeah, to remind everybody, he is the first car a lap down. If the caution comes out, the first car that's a lap down gets a pass around, and he will be in the lead lap. He'll have to start at the tail end of the longest line, so he's going to have to overcome that again. So you can see how one little thing just snowballs. It makes another problem. It makes another problem.
And it ended up being a matter of feet, inches actually, for Jimmy, or for the 4. Jimmy Johnson was able to stay on the lead lap, and Kevin Harvick went a lap down because he didn't get to that start-finish line on pit road a little bit further. A little bit of radio as far as debris on the grill of the 22. Not seeing it very much, but I think they were just talking about it.
Good to hear you, Todd. We're at my limit, so we did pick up a piece of debris on the grill. I hear you're right at your limits. I told the 88 that if we get there, we might stay tucked up for a second. For 5 over right now.
And that's Joey Logano saying he's 5 over the optimum temperature they like to have at Team Penske. And he was able to get that debris off of the grill for the 22. So a short-lived problem. But Jeff, how tough is that as a driver to get behind another car and get that debris gone?
Well, that's not so hard. It's just dealing with the stress of what if it doesn't come off. And once you find someone that perhaps is willing to work with you, or maybe you have to slow down like we saw Denny Hamlin early in the race, just slow down, give a spot up, and then pull in behind somebody. Because, again, the big picture is more important than that one position. But really it's just the stress of, oh, my goodness, am I going to have to pit to get this debris off the grill.
Jimmy Johnson out in front. This is a racetrack where Jimmy Johnson has never won. There's only 4 of those. And Jimmy Johnson out front. He has led 15 laps now. You're watching NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing from Chicagoland. Telecast presented by Toyota. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Credit One Bank, the official credit card of NASCAR. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling. And by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. 78 team of Martin Truex Jr. has been plagued by bad luck, as has the 48 team. They've been trying to find speed all season long, but the 78 once again seems to be plagued by bad luck. Dave?
Well, the first set of tires that came off Martin Truex's car today were just fine, and so the crew didn't have any worries. But you can see the right front that just came off his car now. Martin felt something. The true professionals in this sport can feel the tire going away, and he immediately came to pit road. This is very unusual. He may have hit something, but again, based on what they saw earlier, they had no reason to suspect they'd have a right front issue.
Denny Hamlin had been running as high as second early in this race. However, the car has apparently fallen off a little bit. Handling, it's gotten tight, especially center. But something more concerning was said over the radio not too long ago. Denny said just after the restart he thought that maybe the motor might be laying down. It just does not feel the same as it did at the beginning of the race, although just by the eyeball test, guys, it looks like he's getting down that straightaway pretty quick.
And a battle for second. Brad Keselowski on the inside, Kyle Busch on the outside. Keselowski once again trying to move up. Now Martin Truex Jr. was running second before he had to come to pit road to change that right front tire. And now taking over second, the two of Brad Keselowski.
And Rick, with only 16 laps on that right front tire, it would amaze me that if he didn't hit something on the racetrack. You know, Goodyear works very hard to bring durable tires. And it's one thing at the end of a run where you maybe saw wear or abuse of a tire, but only 16 laps in to have a tire come apart like that, that is shocking, but that is what keeps crew chiefs up at night. That is something that you can't prevent if he did hit something on the racetrack.
Yeah, on lap 77 of a 267-lap race, Denny Hamlin talking about a potential engine issue. Those things don't normally fix themselves. So if indeed he does have a problem, this race is a long way to go, and that engine's going to have to survive if he wants to finish this race.
So that's two chasers that are feeling like they're dealing with a problem. Kelly, what about the 19?
Yeah, another car to keep your eye on. Carl Edwards asking his team if they got all the lug nuts tight on their wheels when they came to pit road. His crew chief, Dave Rogers, said, hey, they've all given the thumbs up here. And he asked again, are you still feeling that vibration? Yep. They thought maybe there was just a chunk on the tire, but as he continued to run, Carl said, yes, I'm still feeling that vibration. So watch out on this 19.
So many times these drivers continuing to say we just can't have a bad race. We just can't have a bad race. Well, already we're seeing drivers having to fight from mistakes. Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., potentially the 11 of Denny Hamlin, and now the 19 also could be in a difficult situation.
Well, unfortunately for the 4 of Kevin Harvick, he currently is on the lucky dog or the free pass position, which is great for him, but you're on board with the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. We just said he had to pit because of a right front tire issue, so he has fresher tires. He's going to try to catch the 4 for this free pass position.
These two guys are racing for their life right now. This free pass position is more important actually than this pass, for third place, because that caution comes out. That can be the difference when you getting back in the lead lap. Remember, when you get back in the lead lap, you still have to start at the back of the pack. So it really takes 2 series of cautions to get yourself caught back up where you originally were. So you have to grind your way into getting your lap back and then getting your position back.
And that is the battle for the free pass on the left. Martin Truex Jr. just getting by the 4 of Kevin Harvick. Kelly.
And as fast as Kevin Harvick was to start this race, going up 30 positions, since those 2 pit stops they made to put 2 tires on each time, he said the 4 car is out of control. He said, I can't drive it on entry. It is sideways, so he definitely has his hands full now.
Kelly behind him, or in front of him now, the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. knows what he needs to do, get in that free pass position and get back on the lead lap. Crew Chief Cole Pearn reminded me this morning that they got to the championship round last year by not having any, quote, horrible races, and that their team is a lot better this year. So they're just trying to take a deep breath now, calm down. He's back, and he will be back on the lead lap when he gets the free pass and try to work his way through the rest of the day.
Martin Truex Jr. running 20th. One of the favorites entering the chase, but already issues early in the first race of the chase. Jimmy Johnson leading at Chicagoland. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Ford. We go further so you can. NASCAR Heat Evolution in stores now. Pick up your copy today. And by Smithfield Foods. That is Applewood smoked bacon tenderloin and candied bacon. So good. Out front, it's Jimmie Johnson. He has led 36 of the 88 laps up to this point. Jimmie Johnson, the winningest driver on mile-and-a-half tracks. He has 25 wins on the mile-and-a-halfs, most of all time. Sprint Network reliability now within 1% of Verizon. Switch today. Save 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rates. You can visit a Sprint store or sprint.com/network today. Just moments ago, a little bit of radio on the 48 team, and this is what they had to say.
95 is going to give you the top. Outside 38 only. I'll get the next one better. We've lost over a second and a half in traffic. The same track everybody else is going through, guys. We got to get better at this.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance. And you heard Chad Knaus say we've got to get better at getting through traffic.
Yeah, and that's the way this team is. They critique every single thing. They push each other. They don't mind talking about it publicly. You need to be better at something. And you know, hey, everybody wrote this team off. A lot of people in there, didn't even pick them to get out of the round of 16, and here they are leading the laps and putting themselves in position. They've never won at this racetrack. Jimmie has never won here before. Right. So at a place, in a year where they haven't shown the speed you're accustomed to seeing, coming here, leading these laps, running in the front, they're making a statement as much as Kevin Harvick made a statement early in the race.
Let's go through the field, presented by Carl's Jr., starting with Kelly Stavis.
And plenty of reasons that Jimmie Johnson would love to get a win here at Chicagoland. As Jeff just said, never won here. It's just one of 4 tracks left. Obviously, a win would put him through to the round of 12. But beyond that, this is his crew chief, Chad Knaus's home track. Jimmie Johnson's had the fortune of winning on his home track out in California. Would love to do the same for Chad Knaus, Marty.
Kelly Keselowski has won the first race in the chase before. He told me this morning it's a huge advantage to your racing. Right now, he said, we're good in 1 and 2, but down here in 3 and 4, that's where the car is struggling a little bit, way too loose off the corner. Chase Elliott having an extremely nice run. In fact, Alan Gustafson asked him a moment ago, how's the car? He said, I'm really, really, really happy. That was 3 reallys, he said. And remember, they get better the longer that they run. Kyle Busch back there said this car is going through the same transition it went through on the first run. He says, I feel like I'm having to kind of overdrive it to keep up with the guys in front of us. For all the JGR cars, they bought brand new cars this weekend. And Kyle Busch was able to test here as well. And behind him, Joey Logano right now in that 22 car. He said his car too free on exit. And I talked to the team this morning. Todd Gordon told me this round is all about base hits. We don't need home runs. And the Cubs obviously clinched this week using a Chicago Cubs reference, Dave.
Alex Bowman has used the wave around to parlay his way into a top 10 run. And this team is a group effort right now. The team's at the track, but don't forget Dale Earnhardt Jr. at home. Crew Chief Greg Ives told me, yeah, he FaceTimed me yesterday, has his input with this group, and of course is watching and rooting for Alex from home. Mike?
Talking to Casey Kane's crew chief, Keith Rodden, this morning, you could sense the disappointment that they did not qualify for the chase, but he found a silver lining. He said back in 2011 we didn't qualify either, but it forced us to focus on the next year over the course of the chase. So in 2012, we came out much stronger. That's the hope once again this year, hoping to dial this race car in so they'll have a strong 2017. Right now, a little bit tight, but other than that, he feels pretty good. Meanwhile, Denny Hamlin may have a bit of an issue in the 11 car. You heard him talk about the concern about the motor laying down. Well, he came over the radio not too long ago and said the motor is changing tones. We'll monitor that, Kelly.
This is the second straight year of the chase for Jamie McMurray, and even though he was eliminated after the round of 16 last year, he said he's going to keep his approach the same. He averaged about an 11th place finish through 3 races last year, and he said, I think anyone would take that again. We just have to have a little bit better luck, keep doing what we're doing, and we'll be fine. Right now he's saying his car just won't turn. It turns 1 and 2 behind him. You see the 19 car of Carl Edwards, and he said he thinks this is one of his best chances at a championship. Even though they had 9 wins back in 2008 and came really close in 2011, he feels as confident about this year as any. Right now he's saying he's tight through the center and across the bumps. Dave?
Kelly, his teammate Matt Kenseth has not been happy with this race car today. It was very difficult to turn during the first run. They made adjustments for it, but the start of the second run was just as bad. Lately it's been freeing up just a little bit, but it's nowhere near the front of the pack right now for Matt. Marty?
Dave, Austin Dillon was on pit road at lap 48 when that caution came out. They took the wave around, got themselves back on the lead lap. He was pretty quick early in this run, but he was too tight at the end of the last run. In fact, he used a scale of 1 to 10. He said he was a 7 tight. This time just a 4 tight, so making progress on this 3 car. Kyle Larson right behind him from 40th to 13th today. When I talked to him earlier this week, he said, we're actually kind of downplaying these chase races. He said, if you put too much pressure on yourself, it's too easy to take yourself out of the game. I'm treating this just like another race. Right now making smart progress. Car a little loose, Kelly.
The rookie Ryan Blaney didn't make the chase this year, but his crew chief Jeremy Bullins told me they want to finish this on a high note. He said if we could win or at least show a lot of competitiveness through these last 10 chase races when all the other guys are bringing their best equipment, we could really finish this out on a high note, Mike.
A.J. Allmendinger, Kelly, has raced at the Chicagoland Speedway 7 times. His best finish here, 13th, trying to better that today. He's just outside of that, running in the 15th position. Got a car that's pretty tight rolling the center, and the last description he used was that the car is floaty. Dave?
Kurt Busch's car right now a little bit loose in, but he was a top 5 car yesterday in practice. He told his crew chief, Tony Gibson, we need to get back to where we were there. It seems like we're getting there, slowly, Mike.
And the 31 car of Ryan Newman experiencing a very similar condition to what he had in practice yesterday. Very tight center, and that has not been good. They have not been able to get that out of the race car, although they've been trying to adjust on it throughout the course of the afternoon. The other obstacle they faced had a bit of a radio issue at the beginning of this race. Meanwhile, Tony Stewart, his final chase appearance, looking for another title to add to his resume. He said when he retired, or announced his retirement, I should say, that he would not go out quietly, and that has certainly been the case. However, the car right now, not very good, extremely tight, especially as the rubber builds up on the racetrack, Kelly.
Well, and the driver that will be taking over for Tony Stewart when he retires is right behind him, and that is Clint Boyer. And he told me 10 to go. He can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Really anxious to get to racing for Stewart Haas Racing right now. Clint Boyer saying that he's just sliding all over the place. The tires have really given up on him, so he's got his hands full with that 15 right now, Rick.
Kelly, Dave, Mike, Marty, excellent job taking us all the way through the field of the cars that are on the lead lap. Clint Boyer running 19th, the last car on the lead lap. And Martin Truex Jr., I mentioned before that Kevin Harvick couldn't unlap himself. Martin Truex Jr. may just do that.
Well, I don't think he's going to have enough time because we're going to see the leaders on pit road, in my opinion, pretty soon. And remember, this pit road is very hard to get onto, and the timing lines are very, very small. So this will be the first opportunity for drivers to make big mistakes.
Early pit stop for Kyle Larson. Marty.
And you see him coming down. This is a team who has short pitted a lot this year, Rick. They're trying to use that to their advantage to get to pit road a little bit earlier than everybody else. We'll see if that pays off for Chad Johnson and Kyle Larson. He said the car's been a little too free, but not bad. Up to 13th on this run. Remember, they started last on the field. You see that wedge adjustment in the back of the car, trying to tighten it up just a little bit for the 42 and Kyle Larson. 4 fresh good years. They'll send him back out on the track.
Kurt Busch is on pit road now in the 41 car. His car was a little bit loose in actually, trying to fix that up a little bit with an air pressure adjustment. The last time he was on pit road, he'll get a wedge adjustment too. They've changed air pressure in 3 of the 4 tires, along with the chassis adjustment, so taking big swings to try to help Kurt. Mike?
Tony Stewart has been complaining the car has been extremely tight, especially on the bottom of the racetrack. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment and a wedge adjustment. You see the wrench going in on the left side of that rear window. That's where they make the adjustment before tire change and fuel. Kelly?
Jimmy Johnson came to pit road from the lead. He said his car started off good, but then it got a little bit snug, although he said it wasn't too bad, that he could live with it. 4 tires for the 48. And now you see the 19 of Carl Edwards. He's saying he burned off the right front tire a little bit too early, so he's going to try to have better tire management, Dave.
The caution didn't come out in time for Martin Truex Jr. to take advantage of the free pass position, so he comes to pit road for 4 tires and fuel. Marty?
And Dave, Joey Logano coming down pit road. He said the car's been a little too free on exit. You also see Kyle Busch coming down to the very first stall on pit road. These two right in front of each other. Kyle Busch saying his car was tighter than the last run. They make that wedge adjustment, trying to loosen up that 18 car. Logano also with the wedge adjustment, trying to do the opposite, tighten up that 22 car. Also, Austin Dillon coming down pit road here as well. And remember, they were tight in the center and tight on exit. They made a wedge adjustment as well, trying to loosen up that 3 car. Also, Chase Elliott coming down pit road. Very happy with that race car. The only problem is he has no water temperature gauge that works in the car right now, so he doesn't know the water temperature inside the race car. Brad Keselowski leaving pit road as well. He said the drive off was, quote, reasonable inside that 2 car. He said it's a little bit loose in and off. They made an air pressure adjustment trying to tighten up that car.
As the green flag pit stops have cycled through, Jimmy Johnson back out in front of the field at Chicagoland. Welcome back to NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing from Chicagoland. Telecast presented by Toyota. Let's check out the Toyota Camry on-track car, which right now is parked in victory lane.
Yeah, Rick, we talked about pit stops and the evolution of pit stops and how now you have to have an 11-second pit stop to have any sort of pace. So one simple change they made is right here on that hubcap. You see how there's a cone to that hubcap? What that allows is for the tire carrier, he doesn't have to worry about up and down or left and right. That kind of self-centers the wheel. Then all he has to do is kind of rotate it like a clock to line up the lug nuts. That has picked up the exchanges on all 4 tires, increasing or actually decreasing the speed on the pit stops.
And Jimmy Johnson continues to be out front. He has led 57 laps already. That's the most laps led by the 48 in a race since his win at Atlanta in race 2 of this season.
Yeah, and the guy he's 4.5 seconds ahead of is his teammate, Chase Elliott. So, once again, the Hendrick Motorsports cars have brought some speed to the chase. In 7th is Alex Bowman, and also in 8th is Casey Kane. So, 4 of the top 10 Hendrick Motorsports cars.
And right behind them is Carl Edwards running 9th, Kelly.
Remember earlier, Carl felt a vibration in his car. That seems to have gone away, but now there's potentially a new issue.
I'll get in the car here. I don't know what it is. Good boy, just look at the tires. They look great. No problem.
And now we're just getting word that his crew chief, Dave Rogers, saying, hey, we know what it is. We can fix it. And he's talking about also Carl's splitter. He's saying he is on the splitter. He's saying we did not lower your splitter this morning. We can fix it, but they think they know the root of the issue, although we don't know yet what that is.
He thinks he has something smoking, and crew chief saying, I think I know what it is, but nobody's saying. So Dave Rogers thinks he knows what it is. Carl Edwards says he doesn't know what it is. And we're about to find out if we get told by either Dave Rogers or Carl Edwards once they fix it.
We'll also have a pretty good view of it if it is something worse than Dave Rogers thinks it is.
So again, the first race of the chase for the Sprint Cup, 10 races. But most importantly, this round of 16, 3 races, and then we advance to the round of 12. So that means 4 drivers are going to drop out. Right now, the 4 in that position to fall out of the chase would be the 3, the 14, the 4, and the 34. And the biggest name in that would be the 4 of Kevin Harvick, who everyone has seen advance all the way to the end of the chase in the 2 elimination chases that we have had.
Well, that clearly explains that racing is more than just having a fast race car. You got to have everything else too. You have to have a little bit of luck. You have to do everything right. Small mistakes magnified and make big mistakes. So the 4 car sitting here was certainly a top 5 car. Would leave, if the race ended right now, would leave not in position he needed to be.
And it's not just about the decisions made to win a race. The 78 of Martin Truex Jr. has lost a lap. He had to come to pit road with that tire issue. Cole Pern had to make a decision. When the leader of Jimmy Johnson hit pit road, do I stay out for 20 laps and hope for a caution? He didn't. He pulled the 78, short pitted him by almost 25 laps. What that has done is kept Martin Truex within a couple seconds of Jimmy Johnson, kept him in the free pass position. That seems like a simple decision, but that could be the decision that gets the 78 back on the lead lap and gains some more of those valuable points.
And Steve, you know there's only one way that could have been just a little bit better even for Martin Truex Jr. Cole Pern and Martin talked about it afterwards.
Cole, we lost a few seconds on our pit stop. I know, should have told you to come with him. My bad on that.
So there was one car that pitted earlier than them. That was Kyle Larson, just 2 laps earlier, Steve. And Martin believes he would have made even better time if they'd come in then.
And the leader, Jimmy Johnson, he came on the same lap of Martin. Well, a lap in front of Martin Truex. Because remember, Martin Truex is a lap down, so it looks like they're scored the same. But the 48 of Jimmy Johnson come to pit road a lap early and gain some time on the 78.
Kelly.
I just checked in with the 19 team who says, yes, Carl thought he saw some smoke. That seems to have gone away in a separate issue. He's been rubbing something. Something's been hitting. They think it might be the splitter, but they're not sure.
There you have it. Issues for Carl Edwards. His teammate Matt Kenseth running just behind him in that DeWalt number 20. Out in front, though, Jimmy Johnson looking for his 7th championship. No other drivers other than Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt have done that before. And Brian Scott spins coming off of turn number 4 right in front of pit road, and that will bring out the caution for the second time. Martin Truex Jr. in the free pass position will get back on the lead lap.
You just mentioned it, Steve, that call that Cole Pern made to have him pit very close from the 48, not try to stay out and try to get that caution, that has put them in the position to get this pass.
Brian Scott, potentially a tire issue here now, as he was spinning coming off of turn 4. Let's take a look at what happened to Brian Scott. Just
Brian
at the
Scott
right of your screen.
Is way up against the wall. Car comes around right in the middle of the corner. Spins it out. Luckily, nobody was right behind him. And I tell you something else, this helped. You know, this spin by the 44 car had helped Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart was very close to getting lapped by Jimmy Johnson. Saved Tony Stewart.
And now with pit road opening, we only have run 17 laps. So I do expect to see every car on pit road. Be interested to see if anybody takes 2 tires. I believe 4 tires is the right call, but there might be another opportunity. As you mentioned, Rick, that 78 Martin Truex Jr. gets the free pass back on the lead lap.
And lead lap cars on their way onto pit road now, led by the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. Kelly.
Jimmy Johnson now has led 65 laps of this race. He's told Chad Knaus that he started off a little bit tighter that run. He had to use the track bar inside the cockpit, and he has asked Chad to go back on the adjustments that they made last time down pit road. You see it's going to be a 4-tire stop for the 48, Marty.
Kelly Brad Keselowski told Paul Wolf, turns 3 and 4, late center exit. That's by far my weakest spot. Car is too tight. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment, trying to loosen it up. Chase Elliott extremely happy with that 24 car. They debated on making a change. Alan Gustafson said no, let's leave it alone. And for Kyle Busch, he said it was way better that run, but if he can free me up just a little bit with air pressure, I think that would help me out. Jimmy Johnson wins that race off pit road, Rick.
Sure does. As we look at the race off pit road, brought to you by Geico. No positions changed in the top 6. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. Jimmy Johnson holding on to the top spot, coming off pit road, and then another chaser with another issue. The 20 of Matt Kenseth speeding on pit road. He was running 10th. We had that too fast exiting penalty. And we have seen so many pit road speeding incidents this year, especially since they have added the timing lines.
And remember, this is what the timing lines look like. The cars are timed from each timing line. Each red mark to red mark, they're timed, so it's time over distance. So the new timing lines, you can see how many have been added, almost double the amount of timing lines. Makes it way more difficult for the drivers to not speed because it's hard. You can't see those timing lines. You try to accelerate out of your pit. You go through one little section too quick, you get busted for speeding.
I mean, you look, last year there were 8, this year there's 14, and basically the snapshot is smaller. So if you look at anything over time, the smaller the snapshot, the bigger the variable. So if the driver makes a little mistake, you used to have, 250 feet to kind of average it back out. Now at only 128 feet, no chance to average it out. And we have seen more speeding penalties since these changes at all of these racetracks. The teams are going to have to adjust.
One team so far that has not made mistakes and looked very strong has been the 48 team of Jimmy Johnson. This is what they had to say on the radio. Maybe they are not sure that they haven't made mistakes yet.
Just running, am I off? Yeah, when I'm telling you need to run 20s or run 50s, yeah. Okay, man, just calm down a little bit. I am. I'm trying to keep us going in the right direction. What do we need to work on?
there you have it. The communication between Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus. You heard Jimmy Johnson, hey, just calm down a little bit.
One thing I will say about Chad Knaus, when I worked in a building next to him, he forced me. He made me a better crew chief because he holds everyone to the standard that he holds himself. And that doesn't matter if you're a tire changer, a mechanic, an engineer, a co-crew chief on another car, or a 6-time champion. It's very simple. He expects the best of the best. That is how you win as many races, as many championships as Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus has won. Kelly?
And Chad told me their biggest asset is the driver behind the wheel of the 48. His other concern right now, he feels like they're losing a little bit too much time in traffic. So he's asking Jimmy and their spotter to work together a little bit better, saying, what can we do to help you? You're losing too much time as you work your way through traffic.
Jimmy Johnson, Chase Elliott will make up row number 1. Tonight on NBCSN, the Verizon IndyCar Series will crown a champion. It's live from Sonoma Raceway. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. I had the opportunity to call 3 IndyCar races this year. 2 of those were won by Simon Pagenaud. Will Power, the other driver in the championship hunt. Both Penske drivers fighting for that title.
It's going to be a big day for Penske in Sonoma, and it's a decent day for Penske here. They're running 3rd and 5th currently with Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano.
Jimmy Johnson has chosen the inside line. Chase Elliott on the outside. Back to racing.
A good restart for the 24 Chase Elliott. We have heard all year long that restarts seem to have struggled for this young man, but that was a great restart as he storms to the outside of his teammate, Jimmy Johnson.
Trying to take the lead away from Jimmy Johnson using that higher line. Through the bumps in 3 and 4, and Jimmy Johnson will exit 4 out in front. Chase Elliott running second. Here comes Brad Keselowski. A lot of momentum with the 2 as he's trying to get by the 24 for second. Kyle Busch runs 4th. Joey Logano 5th. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson 6th and 7th. Casey Kane is 8th. Jamie McMurray 9th. Kurt Busch 10th.
Everybody on these restarts tries to run the bottom of the racetrack with new tires, higher grip on the racetrack. You basically just want to go around the shortest possible way. As the tires start to wear out, the grip starts to leave, then you start looking for where the car has the most grip. It doesn't matter how big the racetrack is on.
And Jeff, such an impressive run for Chase Elliott up in the 2nd position. And I talked to Alan Guffson about really the approach coming into the chase. He said, I could see the last few weeks of the regular season, Chase was putting way too much pressure on himself. So I told him, coming into the chase, have fun. Nobody expects us to win the championship. We're playing with house money. Just go enjoy driving the race car. Look, you're 20 years old. Have fun. You're in your rookie season in the playoffs. Why not just enjoy it?
And Marty, it's hard to stop and just enjoy it. The pressure's so high. You know, you've worked so hard to be here. You don't want to give up anything. You want to make sure you're giving 100% effort. If you're not thinking about it, if you're not worrying about it, you feel like someone else is. So it's hard to step back and enjoy it because you want it so badly, you know. And if you're not working, you're not critiquing, you're not trying to make yourself better, you just don't feel like you're giving 100%.
We've talked about it over and over. The maturity of the young 20-year-old. Look at this, the 78 and the 4. But the 78 on the lead lap, the 4 is not.
Yeah, we documented the pit strategy by Cole Pern. Aggressive pit strategy. It worked for the 78. He got back on the lead lap. The 4th, Kevin Harvick. Rodney Childers chose not to take the wave around in this situation, so he's still racing for the free pass. He's in the free pass position, and I think he can easily stay there until the leaders start to lap more cars. He definitely has more pace than it's Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer, Danica Patrick racing for that position. Harvick easily is faster than the 15 or the 10.
The problem is he's going to need a caution here pretty quickly because those guys that did take the pass around, they have like 15 laps more on their tires, so they're going much slower. So Jimmy Johnson, the leader, is going to get to them fairly quickly and start putting them a lap down, and will take Harvick out of that pass around position. So Harvick needs a caution relatively quickly.
16 drivers took the wave around. It was actually a very big break for the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. So 16 cars less that he will have to then pass. Martin Truex Jr. running in the 15th position, but on the lead lap. 7 7/10 of a second behind Jimmy Johnson, who has now put 0.7 of a second between himself and teammate Chase Elliott running second.
Yeah, why those wave rounds matter, Rick, is because the 78 got the free pass. He has to line up at the tail of the field, except for the wave rounds. They start behind him. So as you mentioned, 16 cars. That's 16 cars he didn't have to drive by. That saves tires. That saves just effort.
And Steve, we didn't get a chance to call that pit stop for Martin Truex Jr., but Cole Pern came down off the pit box to grab a cool drink of water, and I asked him, so how has the balance been on the 78? And he just smiled. He said, real good. We're getting ready to kick their butt again. Remember how many laps they led earlier, and along with the 4 car have shown a lot of the best speed here this afternoon.
Harvick down the back straightaway, racing each other. A little bit of contact side by side. Looks like maybe the 4 was trying to side draft the 78, take a little wear off his spoiler, slowing down a little bit down the straight, and just a little bit of contact.
And I love the hand out the window.
Absolutely.
Come on, man. We got 134 to go.
Closing in on the halfway point of this race. 267 laps to run on the 134th lap now. And again, Kevin Harvick scored a lap down, but in the free pass position, running 20th. And the reason they got into that position, they were on pit road and not able to get across the start-finish line before then leader 78 Martin Truex Jr. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are the first visitors to U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis to face their division rivals Adrian Peterson, the Vikings, on Sunday Night Football. Dan Patrick, Mike Tirico host Football Night in America, 7 p.m. Eastern tonight, only on NBC. Welcome back to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 400. Of course, kids love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Regan Smith and his wife Megan are expecting their second child. Their son Rhett also expecting a sibling. Ty Dillon subbing for Regan Smith as Regan went back home, and they're currently in the hospital, and they are in labor waiting for that second child. And so that's why Ty Dillon is behind the wheel of the 7 this weekend, subbing in for Regan Smith. Jimmy Johnson out in front, Jimmy Johnson now has led 85 laps, has a 1.2 second lead over Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano all in the top 5. Denny Hamlin, Casey Kane, Kyle Larson, Jamie McMurray, Alex Bowman in the top 10.
And Rick, I know we've said this time and time again, but I don't want to say it was unexpected and be unfair to the 48. They showed some speed. They led laps at Michigan, but had some miscues. Darlington and Richmond showed a little bit more speed. But this is more dominant speed out of Jimmy Johnson that we just haven't seen. As you mentioned, 86 laps led today.
And to start the season off, Jimmy Johnson in the first 7 races had 2 wins, 5 top 10s. But at this racetrack, he's never won before. And now out front, you look at where Hendrick Motorsports are running, 1st, 2nd, 7th, and 10th.
We haven't seen this. We just haven't seen this in the recent history. They just haven't shown this kind of speed. They've been struggling, and openly they talked about it. I talked to Jimmy Johnson a few weeks ago, and he told me, look, we don't have the speed we need. We're hoping we have some better cars coming, but we just don't have the speed, and if we don't, we're going to have to find other ways to try to advance through these rounds. But 2 weeks ago, we saw the speed light up. We saw something start happening, but then they didn't execute. So now, so far today, they've had speed and been able to execute.
And if this can be consistent, there's a lot of chase grids that are getting thrown away that I've seen this week because, to your point, they just hadn't showed it.
A lot have shown the 78s advancing all the way to the end, but the 4 and the 78 haven't been playing nicely together.
You're all right. He's going to have a little bit of a run back to you right here. Right there, he's hitting your bumper. He gets you. Clear by quarter, clear by half.
Give a little bit of a bump there. And we saw earlier he gave him a little tap on the side.
Jeff, what I want to know is I like the spotter saying he hit you. Do you think Martin needed to know? Or?
Yeah, Martin argued back. Stevie said, ask him why he's hitting me. He came back on the radio.
Uh-huh.
Now one's running into me. I'll give it a spotter as soon as I get a chance to get down there to him. He's all the way to the other end.
That never does any good, by the way.
Well, Martin needs to look at the tweet. We
That's
showed
right.
it earlier. He hit you because he's a bull. He's going to hit everybody. And I think this is Kevin Harvick, right? This is what he tweeted out before it started. His move for the next 11 weeks, and he is showing it today. Kevin Harvick, mentally tough, but I think he also likes to try the intimidation factor.
Yeah, I believe he is strong at mind games, and Kevin Harvick playing a few mind games early on with Martin Truex Jr. in this race. Saw how fast Kevin Harvick was at the start of the race, where he had to start at the back because of body modifications that they had made. So he starts at the back and moved all the way up into the top 10 under the initial start of this race.
And I think they have to be thinking this chase is getting started off the way last year's chase did. They came to Chicago, they ran really, really well, but late in the race they had problems. They dug themselves a hole. This is starting the same way. They have a really fast race car, but they've dug themselves a hole. So not the start this team was looking for.
Well, the 4 of Kevin Harvick did have to start in the rear, but he wasn't alone. The 43 of Eric Almirola started in the rear, and the 42 of Kyle Larson, another chase contender, also started in the rear. And here he is taking the 7th position from Casey Kane. So while his race hasn't been quite as flashy as Kevin Harvick's, didn't move up through the field quite as aggressively, he has really found some speed. That top line was working. You saw him use it to get around the 5. Now he's back to the bottom. See a lot of versatility in this car, Jeff. He's able to move around and just had a nice, quiet run up into the top 10.
Yeah, but now the track's starting to get hotter and it's starting to get slicker and more of the rubber laid down on the racetrack. This is when Kyle Larson starts to show speed. When he can open the racetrack up and do just that, run right against the wall, enter very high into turn 1, carry that wall all the way off the corner, that's where Kyle Larson is really good. So the second half of these races and on long runs, that's where Kyle Larson is his best. It appears we're in the middle of that right now.
Kyle Larson coming off the 1st, the 3rd, and a 2nd. The last 3 races for the 42 team. The 48 looking for its 3rd win of the 2016 season. With Jimmy Johnson out front, we want to look at the Hendrick Motorsports winless streak presented by Sprint. 21 race winless streak. The last time Hendrick was in victory lane was Jimmy Johnson earlier this year. Sprint's network reliability now within 1% of Verizon. Switch today, save 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rates. Visit the Sprint store or sprint.com/network today. That is the 4th longest of the career and longest since 1994 for Hendrick Motorsports. We saw a 22 race winless streak that could be snapped today if Jimmy Johnson and this 48 team continue to be as flawless as they have been through the first 154 laps of this race.
We've talked a lot about Hendrick Motorsports and their improvement, but another company that has shown consistent speed really all day long, but just right outside the top 2 is this 2 of Brad Keselowski, currently in 3rd, his teammate Joe Logano in 5th, and Ryan Blaney, the Wood Brothers car that gets a lot of help from this company, running in 10th. Let's ride around with Brad here, Jeff, and just show how fast this racetrack really is.
You can see how rough it is also. This is one of the more rough racetracks that we go to. As he comes down a back straightaway, the strange back straightaway has a little curve in it. Most back straightaways are straight. Enters turn 3. Not a lot of wheel input. Obviously, his car must be driving pretty well. Doesn't have to turn back to the right very much. See his head moving around a lot. That wheel input to the right, leaving the corner, that's just a little bit loose. I mean, the back of the car wants to come around on him. Enters turn 1. Watch this big bump on the entrance in turn 1, right there. You can see how big that bump is. Trying to decide where he wants to be. He has a lap car in front of him, trying to see if he wants to try to get by him on the very bottom or in the middle. Remember, the closer he is to him, the more air is coming off of his car, making his car not drive well. So almost 192, 193 down the back straightaway. Fast racetrack.
And Jeff, you guys talk about Team Penske showing up to the racetrack with a little more speed this weekend. When you talk to Paul Wolfe, he describes it as showing up with potential. He said, much of the second half of the regular season, our cars didn't have potential or speed. He said, but we're bringing a step here this weekend to Chicagoland, but we feel like we need to bring a bigger step at Charlotte. That's when the round of 12 starts in the chase. He said, we're good enough right now to get through this round, and we gained a little bit on the competition. But Steve, why is it more important to keep continuing bringing more speed every week to the racetrack, especially as the rounds get smaller and smaller with less participants?
Well, it's simple, Marty. I love when fans always ask, why didn't they bring the car back that ran so good the last time? Because that's not what the competitors are doing. Everyone in the garage is trying to find speed, trying to improve. So if you're not getting better, you're getting worse, as simple as that may sound.
His teammate, Joey Logano, as you mentioned earlier, running top 5 as well in the 5th position. He's 7 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson, race leader.
It always makes me laugh, even at these crazy speeds. You watch Joey Logano take his left hand off the steering wheel going down the straightaway, almost like he's on the interstate. I mean, they're running over 180 miles an hour, but he kind of relaxes that left hand right here. He moves his right hand over, just trying to find a different way to kind of break up and be more comfortable.
And again, you use the word comfortable at almost 200 miles an hour. Jimmy Johnson has led 103 laps of the 159 completed. Next Sunday, Sprint Cup Series heads to New Hampshire for race 2 of the chase. That coverage on NBCSN beginning at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Mike.
Chris Buescher's on pit road. His car's been a little bit free in. They're going to make a wedge adjustment on the left side. Also a 4-tire change in Sunoco Racefield, Rick.
One of the chasers back on pit road, and Buescher running 34th. He is 2 laps down. More likely we'll go another lap down, as we are getting close to green flag pit stops, or closer. Jimmie Johnson was last on pit road at lap 121, as we've completed lap 165. Pit window, we mentioned, between 57 and 60 laps, so they can go quite a bit further. But we have seen virtually every green flag stop, guys have been coming in maybe 15 to 20 laps early.
Yeah, I really would expect Jimmie Johnson to come to pit road probably the next 4 or 5 laps if he continues the trend that he has shown earlier.
Jimmie Johnson, 6-time champion. One thing about Jimmie Johnson that is definitely incredible, he's never missed a chase. Every chase he has been a part of. Jimmie Johnson still striving for something that only 2 other drivers have ever done, win 7 championships.
We talked about it earlier, you know, we're getting ready to have green flag pit stops. These drivers have to be smart getting on pit road. This is one of the more difficult pit roads because you cannot see the commitment cone. Remember, you have to stay inside the commitment cone, and then you have to be at pit road speed. You can't see it till you get right up on top of it. So drivers tend to overdrive the entrance into pit road speed, and we saw a caution earlier in the race. Cannot have a problem here and just dig yourself a hole.
Brad Keselowski currently running in the 3rd position, a former champion himself. Let's take a look at this week's Ford Drive to the Championship. He has won at Chicagoland twice in the past 3 years, 2012 and 2014, and very strong on 1.5-mile racetracks. Top 10 finishes in 18 of the last 19 races.
He is really strong on 1.5-mile racetracks. I talked to him this week. He said it just felt like they weren't quite where they needed to be coming to this championship hunt. Felt like they were a B+ in every area. They had to take a step forward, find a little more speed, have a little better pit stops. He needed to do a little better job driving. Just felt like they had to step it up all the way around.
Alex Bowman on pit road. Dave.
Bowman came down pit road just a little bit earlier than he wanted to because he felt like he had a vibration possibly in the front. So the driver, feeling like to avoid catastrophe, he would come down pit road. Now they're within a window, obviously, a little sooner than they wanted to. The crew's now going to look over the tires. They look pretty good coming off at this point.
Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s name still on top of the windshield. That's his car. That's his team. They're just subbing for the ailing Dale Earnhardt Jr., the recovering Dale Earnhardt Jr. from the concussion earlier this year. 14 of Tony Stewart now on pit road. Kelly.
Nearly 115 laps left. Jimmie Johnson comes in. He says the 48 is a little bit too free, especially getting into the corners. He's been lowering the track bar, inside the cockpit. They're going to go ahead and make a wedge adjustment for the 48 and an air pressure adjustment. 4 tires than fuel, Mike.
Focus on going for Tony Stewart right now as the team works on the left side of that race car. A 4-tire change. They already made a wedge adjustment on the right side as well, trying to free him up.
Mike, Chase Elliott with a new rear tire carrier and a new rear changer from Casey Kane's team. That for the chase, trying to get this 24 car a little bit better. For the first time in 2 stops, they make an adjustment on that 24 car. 1 round down in the right rear, too tight, Dave.
Kurt Busch identified which run was their best. Tony Gibson identified what changes could get this car back to that, hoping to get Kurt out of 13th position and into the top 10 at least.
Dave Kyle Busch, top 3 that entire run, said the, quote, good lasted longer into the run this time, but still too late, too loose late in the run. You see them making an air pressure adjustment, trying to tighten that car up for him. Behind him, Joey Logano having a very solid day. He said it's pretty tight on this run from the center off, and it got a little bit worse the longer they ran. They too, air pressure adjustment, trying to loosen up that 22 car. Also a piece of tape on the grill as well. Brad Keselowski coming down pit road right now, and he said, I have less stability early in the run, but I do like our long run speed compared to the rest of the field. So Paul Wolfe is going to make an air pressure adjustment here as well. A little bit too tight at the end of that run, Kelly.
Since going a lap down, Kevin Harvick has not been happy with his race car. He's saying he is just out of control and saying the changes that they've been trying to make have not been working. They're going to give him some adjustments here. You see it was also 4 tires and fuel for Kevin Harvick.
Keller, we're hearing the 18 of Kyle Busch, too fast entering. So they will have to serve a speeding penalty. You can't make mistakes.
Might as well let the air pressure build off pit road. Coming to you.
He said he's coming this time. Let's ride on board. This is one of the best drivers there is to getting the pit road. This is a tricky pit road, though. Now he has to limit. He already has one mistake with speeding. We cannot speed again.
The pass-through.
So just a pass-through, Rick. The 18 doesn't have to pull into his box. The penalty is just to make a trip down pit road with no service to your race car.
Steve, you know, as a crew chief, that's exactly what Adam Stevens told him. Don't compound this with another mistake. Please make sure you're a little conservative when you come down pit road doing your pass-through penalty, and that's what all you crew chiefs worry about in this first round, right, Steve? Just no mistakes, and here's one on pit road for the 18.
They have to limit mistakes, and we'll say it time and time again. With the addition of extra timing lines, these teams, these drivers, these crew chiefs have got to adjust, in my opinion, how close they run to the limit. There just seems to be too many speeding penalties. They have to leave themselves more room.
Problems continuing for the Chasers. This time it's the 18 of Kyle Busch. Jimmy Johnson continuing to lead at Chicagoland. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. McDonald's, I'm loving it. And by Toyota. Let's go places. And welcome back to NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing from Chicagoland. The telecast presented by Toyota. One driver going places is the 24 of Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott, after such a dominant performance early by Jimmy Johnson, Elliott was able to get by the 48 easily.
And so was the 18 of Busch. He was also able to get by the 48 to get himself unlapped. So all of a sudden, Jimmy Johnson's having problems, even in the middle of the corner, how slow he is. Chase Elliott easily passed Jimmy Johnson.
And when he passed him, he has pulled away to a 2.5 lead.
We were wondering if there was something wrong with the 48 on the radio. He mentioned this moments ago.
All right, man. Things acted weird when I let off the gas. It like goes straight.
And so that was what Jimmy Johnson had as far as the explanation why the car was falling off the pace. So Chase Elliott already with almost a 2-second lead over Jimmy Johnson running in the second spot. Brad Keselowski, after the green flag pit stops, is third. He is almost 4 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson. That is Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano, the top 5.
And what a moment for Chase Elliott. 84 laps to go, race 1 of the round of 16. He qualified for the chase, driving the iconic 24 that Jeff Gordon made famous. Still looking for his first win. What would be a better race to get a win than the first race of the chase? Get that automatic bid into the round of 12.
And think about what Chase Elliott is doing right here. Not only is he trying to win this race, he's also trying to prevent Kevin Harvick from having a good race. So getting in front of A.J. Allmendinger, putting A.J. Allmendinger a lap down, now has A.J. in that free pass position, keeping Kevin Harvick out of that opportunity. And with the 18 right in front of him, he could possibly get him a lap down as well. That would give him another car.
And Jeff, you saw on that graphic the 2 second-place finishes at Michigan, and we saw how hard he was on himself after that second place at Michigan in August. After that race, Alan Gustafson called him into his office and said, hey, listen, I don't mind you being hard on yourself, but I also want you being your biggest cheerleader. I also want you walking in the garage area saying, you know what, I can beat everybody in here, having confidence that you can do that. That's the attitude you need to have in this chase. You need to be relaxed, but you need to be confident. How big is that for a young driver to feel like, Jeff, that he can get it done, even though he hasn't gotten that first win yet?
I believe Chase Elliott knows he can get it done. I've watched Chase Elliott race late models. I've watched him race when he was 15, 16, 17 years old. This guy has talent. He has skill. There's no doubt about it. And he drives like he knows it, but he is hard on himself. He really takes time to say, what could I have done different? Is there something that I could have done that could have made us win that race or not had a bad finish? I like that in a young driver. It's not always positive. It's not always fun, but he takes accountability. And I think that's one of his strengths, and that's why he is so good.
Well, and Rick, 2 cautions in 187 laps. I don't buy it. With 80 laps to go, we're going to see yellows. Chase Elliott is going to have to try to figure out a way to be better than he's been on those restarts if he wants to try to win this race.
Only 3 drivers in their rookie season have ever made the chase. One of those being Denny Hamlin during his rookie season. The other being Chris Buescher and, of course, Chase Elliott. Caution has come out for the third time, this time for debris on the backstretch. And so crew will go to work on getting the debris off of the racetrack. Aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. Still out front, Chase Elliott. The first car scored a lap down was Tony Stewart, and that being because the 24 just had gone by the 14, and so the free pass will go to Tony Stewart. Pit road is open. Last time they were on pit road, about 20 laps ago. So the 24 already looking to head the hard left onto pit road, and he's got quite a few followers. Kelly.
We heard Jimmy Johnson say earlier that his car was acting weird. Well, he just had a full description for Chad Knaus, but to sum it up, he said this car is evil to drive. So they're going to bring him to pit road, make some adjustments. They'll also, you see the wrench going in there, they'll make a chassis adjustment. It's also going to be 4 Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel, Mike.
Denny Hamlin had asked his crew chief, Mike Wheeler, earlier to remind him about his pit road speeds. He's had several infractions this year. He's been very careful today. A 4-tire change and a wedge adjustment to free him up. Marty?
Brad Keselowski told Paul Wolfe, I like our long run speed, but the car right now just way too line sensitive. Chase Elliott already gone from pit road. 12-second stop for that bunch. He said we're really good out front, but in traffic we're a little too tight.
Great stops for the 24, 48, and 11. Denny Hamlin making up a spot coming off pit road. Welcome back to NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Racing from Chicagoland. The telecast presented by Toyota. We want to take a look at the Toyota driver update. Denny Hamlin running third, Martin Truex Jr. 8th, Kenseth, Busch, Edwards 10th, 11th, and 16th respectively. Denny Hamlin had this to say on the radio just moments ago about the pit stop.
Nicely done. Know it wasn't your best effort, but we don't need your best. Just keep us in this thing. I'll take care of the rest. Yeah, doing good, bud. Doing good. Good job all around.
we've talked a lot about Denny Hamlin and all the penalties he's had on pit road, but one of the things Denny's talked about is that he wasn't as good on pit road as some other guys were. Some other guys were better at getting in his pit box, better leaving. So he took this first part of the year and worked on that, and through that he got some penalties. But he certainly feels that he learned how to do it better. He learned how to be better on pit road. It doesn't feel like those penalties will carry over. It was all about learning how to be better, and they were willing, because they won Daytona. They were already in the chase. They were willing to take some gambles and get some penalties to ultimately be better in the long run.
With Chase Elliott out front, let's let you know how he got there. As we recap from the start of this race, the 4 and 42 having to drop all the way back. 42, a transmission change, the 4 body improvements that they had to go to the back for.
And he went a lap down when the caution came out. Missed being in the lead lap by a matter of inches. You see the 48 just beat him as the 78 crosses the line, and 78's right at the line. The 4 car is 2 feet maybe from being on the line, put him a lap down.
Yeah, and at that point, the Martin Truex had control of the race, but he had a right front tire issue. Had to make an unscheduled pit stop, only 16 laps into the run. You see right there all the tread missing from the tire, and then Brian Scott has an issue coming onto pit road. That gives Martin Truex Jr. the wave around.
And then you talk about experienced drivers, somebody that's been there, done that. Matt Kenseth certainly fits that bill, but caught speeding on pit road, had to go to the back of the pack.
Well, then Kyle Busch unfortunately joined his teammate Matt Kenseth with a speeding penalty. Kyle Busch unfortunately was under green flag pit stops and had to do a pass-through.
And you can watch every Sprint Cup Series race with the NBC Sports app. Get closer with additional camera angles, driver stats, track information. It's available on mobile, tablet, and connected TVs. You can download the app, find out more at NBCSports.com/live. Kelly.
We heard Jimmy Johnson describe his car as acting weird and downright evil. Well, over the radio a minute ago, it sounds like they may have figured out what the issue was.
Yeah, man, these tires are all, something was way different than the rest of the race. Yeah, you can see it. They're all green. It's weird.
So saying the tires looked weird when they came off. We'll see what this fresh set of Goodyears does for the 48.
And NASCAR's going to add a lap. They were 2 by 2 getting ready to come to the restart, but they're going to go around again.
Yeah, and interesting too, the leader, Chase Elliott, he took the outside. We saw earlier that when Jimmy Johnson was on the inside of him, Chase was not able to get around on the outside. So even though he did that, Chase Elliott did pick the outside. You mentioned, Steve, that Chase's problem has been restarts. He's lost several races on restarts. So with sticker tires, new tires, he needs to nail this restart. This won't be the last one probably. He needs to learn how to do it right now and be able to apply it as this race comes to an end.
How about the Hendrick Motorsports graphic here? Already today, 139 laps led. The last 12 races combined, they only led 122 laps. So definitely a turnaround, at least in this first race of the chase, for the 2 Chase drivers in Jimmy Johnson and Chase Elliott.
Well, and you look, we have the top 7 as chasers, Kenseth in 9th, and then another group of chasers from 11th back to 15th. Stewart got back on the lead lap, but Kevin Harvick, we ride along here with Kevin Harvick. He has battled all day trying to get that lap back. Currently sits in the position to get the free pass. He just hasn't had that timely yellow. He's probably run more laps in this position than any car today, but can't seem to be there when the caution comes out. If he's fortunate enough to get his lap back, the 4 still shows some of that speed. He might be able to get back up in there and still be a contender.
And you heard him accelerating. You hear him on the throttle. What he's doing is he's spinning rear tires. He's getting heat in those rear tires so that when he gets to the restart zone, those tires make traction and he can get a restart. You don't just drive in the restart zone without preparing it, without working, and that's what Kevin Harvick's doing.
Kevin Harvick, a veteran, and Chase Elliott has been so hard on himself, as far as especially after Michigan, thinking he was going to win that race, but on the restart, he was bettered by Kyle Larson. Now in a position where he can take on a 6-time champion. Back into the restart zone. Green flag back in the air. A great restart by the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. Can Chase Elliott utilize the momentum on the high side and clear him? Coming out of turn 2, he does.
It's got to be good for Chase's his confidence. He knows he can do it. He knows if he gets that opportunity to win the race, he just does. He just did it. He's just going to have to do it again.
Good job, buddy.
And with 69 laps to go, now 68, That's still outside of the fuel window. They'll have to come to pit road at least one more time in this race.
But the race is starting to get that feel, Rick. These competitors know that it's starting to wind down while they still have another pit stop. We saw them 2 and 3 wide down the front stretch using the apron to try to improve their position.
Ryan Blaney in the 21 making the pass on Alex Bowman. Riding along with Kyle Busch as he runs that higher line. Bowman down below. Going by, and brothers running side by side, and actually Kurt Busch ran Harvick all the way to the apron. We'll see how aggressive Kevin Harvick is now as he's trying to get by the 18 of Kyle Busch. But again, that's not for position. Kevin Harvick running 19th. He scored a lap down.
But that's my point, though, Rick. If Kevin Harvick can somehow get his lap back, he just drove from what would be the 19th position all the way up inside the top 15. Would be running 13th if he was on the lead lap. He just needs to get his lap back.
He's running aggressively, trying to stay in that free pass position. Out in front, Chase Elliott already 0.7 of a second over Jimmy Johnson. Take another look at what happened with Harvick going all the way down the racetrack. Kurt Busch comes down. Those two are teammates, by the way.
Harvick had a run in the middle of 3 and 4. Knew these guys were going to be side by side. Knew they were not going to have the momentum, so he aggressively made a move to the inside. The 41 tried to block too late. Cleared 2 cars, 1 corner.
Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson are the top 5.
Kyle Larson, that's a new name we haven't seen in the top 5. Had to start last on the field today. Methodically worked his way up. He's worked up into the top 5 position.
Ghost points on the left of your screen, showing where all the 16 Chase drivers are currently sitting in points as they run on the track. The 4 of Kevin Harvick running the high line now. Trying to make that work again. Trying to stay in the free pass position. Needs a caution. Caution has to come out for Kevin Harvick to get back on the lead lap. Unless he wants to, at some point in time, take a wave around, if that even presents itself.
Well, it presented itself this caution. They chose not to take it, as they've done several times. That was probably, in my eyes, that was the right thing to do. They are the fastest car of anyone that's a lap down. So they're banking that they're going to see more cautions. They can take advantage of the wave around. You never know when the cautions are going to come out, that's for sure. But with being the fastest car, I think that was the right call.
The record for fewest cautions at Chicagoland is 4. Currently, only 3 cautions have come out today after 205 laps. We go NASCAR nonstop. You won't miss a thing. First race of the chase taking place right here on NBCSN from Chicagoland Speedway. And later this evening at 6:30, the IndyCar Series racing from Sonoma, a championship will be determined. Team Penske has two drivers, Simon Pagenaud and Will Power, fighting for that title. And then it's all wrapped up with victory lap at 9:30. This evening, Joey Logano currently running 5th. Team Penske has been strong. They've run pretty consistently in the top 5 all day long. Out front, Chase Elliott has been able to drive by the 6-time champion Jimmy Johnson to take the lead, and now Chase Elliott has led 36 laps, still searching for his first ever win in the Sprint Cup Series, but has made the chase as just a rookie this season.
It would be a huge win this race. It automatically advances you to the next round of these playoffs. So having your first win in the playoffs is huge.
At the beginning of the race, green flag pit stops were taking place when a caution came out, and that put the 4 of Kevin Harvick, ended up putting him a lap down. He has fought all race long to try to get that lap back, but still in the free pass position, running 19th, 1 lap down.
Well, it hasn't been just Kevin Harvick that had to recover. The 78 of Martin Truex Jr. had to pit early. Here you see Kevin Harvick currently in that free pass position, but he's been there, it seems like, the entire race. Hasn't got that timely caution to help him. The 78 of Martin Truex Jr., on the other hand, though, he did get that timely caution, got his lap back, and has driven all the way to the 5th position and continually runs the fastest laps on the racetrack. It'll be interesting to see if he can run down those front 3 or 4 drivers and make, a push for the win.
Surprisingly, Hendrick Motorsports hasn't won a race in 21 races. The record for them in a season is 22, which happened back in 1994, and they're still trying to break that record. We would have thought it would have been Jimmy Johnson that would have taken them out of that winless column, but now it's Chase Elliott who's out in front of this field that potentially could get that first win. And maybe even in Dawsonville, Georgia, at the pool room, the siren might sound again for another Elliott, Bill Elliott, who had 44 wins, and every time he would win, they would ring the siren. At the pool room in Dawsonville, Georgia, Chase Elliott, 52 laps away from potentially his first win in the Sprint Cup Series. Want to listen into Joey Logano's radio.
97, 75 in front, 82 are back. Ran the bottom with you. When you start to come off the line, he's able to keep it down there another 5-car lengths, but no gain.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. Does the 24 of Chase Elliott have to worry about the little bit of debris that's on one of the hood pins here?
Yeah, I saw that a little while ago. That's been there. It's been there for a long time. I don't think it's anything other than annoying. As a driver, you're seeing that. See how it's in the windshield?
Yeah, right in his windshield.
Yeah, just not paying attention to it, just ignoring it. It's more an annoyance than anything.
Steve, with ADD, would you have any way could you avoid looking at that streamer that's right in front of you?
Well, I think 200 miles an hour would keep me pretty well focused. And that's what makes these race car drivers so special, is that these are long races, and the amount of focus, the level of focus they have to carry for all of these green flag runs. We've only had 3 cautions at 217 laps, so we've had long green flag runs, and they have to keep their focus and try to put together the best laps as we see a battle for the 9th position between Jamie McMurray and Matt Kenseth. And the rookie Ryan Blaney says, no way, I want to get into this battle. He's run well all day, just outside the top 10. Looks like he's going to try to take the 10th position from Matt Kenseth.
Every position matters, every point matters. And Jamie McMurray knows that better than anyone. Wasn't able to advance out of the round of 16 a year ago.
And here is the uniqueness of the chase of the NASCAR playoffs. You have 3 cars right here battling for position. The 1 of Jamie McMurray in the chase. The 20 of Matt Kenseth in the chase. The 20 of Ryan Blaney not in the chase. But if he passes either of these cars, he's still costing them points.
Great battles all around the track as we continue to watch the 20 try to get by the 21 or the 1 now of Jamie McMurray. You'll see it all as we go NASCAR nonstop. 20-year-old Chase Elliott has been around the racetrack since he was born. 16-time most popular driver Bill Elliott, father of Chase Elliott, and 44 times his father has been able to win. Chase Elliott looking for his first win. He has been out front 49 laps of the 225 complete, just 42 laps remaining from Chicagoland in the first race of the chase. The gap between Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, 1.7 seconds, 3.5 seconds back from him. Martin Truex Jr. It looks as though Martin Truex Jr. is definitely the car on the run. Let's talk about strategy as we are now under 43 to go, brought to you by Smithfield Foods.
Well, minimize mistakes. We've talked about that. It's going to be important for the entire chase, but already today we've seen a lot of pit road mistakes, speeding on pit road. And Jeff, restarts, are they coming? If they do come, you're going to have to execute. We've had a lot of green flag racing today.
Yeah, and then every point matters in the chase. We focus a lot on the guys trying to win this race, but Kyle Busch, Jamie McMurray, Kurt Busch, Carl Edwards, all these guys, 12th, 15th, 16th, they're still racing for points, trying to advance into the round of 12.
Martin Truex Jr. was a lap down, was able to fight his way back, and now Martin Truex Jr. running in the top 3 and can see the 24 of Chase Elliott now.
And we've seen this team. They've had issues throughout the year. They've had a lot of races where they've had the fastest car, but have found ways, through mistakes or sometimes not fault of their own, but they have speed to recover, and that's what they've done today. They had problems, but now they've gotten themselves within 3.5 seconds of the leader, and they're fast enough. If everything goes their way, they can get back to the lead and have a shot to win this race.
Getting ready for green flag pit stops. Before that, let's go through the field. We'll start with Marty Snyder.
And Rick, those green flag pit stops could be coming quickly. Chase Elliott quiet this entire run once he took the lead. He just came on the radio a moment ago, told the team, I'm pretty good right here. I don't want any changes on this stop. You bring your best car to the first race of the chase. This is the car that almost won Michigan twice, Kelly.
A fresh set of Goodyear tires seems to have cured the ails of the 48 car. Jimmy Johnson has mostly been quiet on the radio, although just a minute ago he said he was starting to get a little bit free. The team has been happy with his lap times, although they said, watch out, there's some fast cars coming. In particular, Dave, that 78.
At the beginning of the run, Kelly, he said, we're a little too tight taking off. And then about 5 laps later, Martin radioed his crew. Here we come, he said. He's picked up 5 spots since the restart, Mike.
Dave, the 11 team's victory in Richmond last week was a big one for them. Crew Chief Mike Wheeler said it validated their regular season, something they didn't really feel very good about because they were in R&D mode, most of it. After winning the Daytona 500, they tested most of the season to get ready for this part of the season, the playoffs. He's been very quiet over the course of this run. Pretty happy with the race car. Marty?
Mike, Team Penske was so focused on Chicagoland and not worried about what happened last week at Richmond that they canceled this week's competition meeting. The team told me, I don't think we've done that in years, but we wanted to focus this week on starting the chase. Brad Keselowski struggling with the same thing he struggled all day long, too tight right there in turns 3 and 4. For his teammate Joey Logano, he is too loose, the opposite of him. He said in 1 and 2, that's where it's worse, but they have fixed the center of the corner for that 22 car. That's helped them out tremendously. Behind him, Kyle Larson, who's fallen back a little bit in the last couple of laps. He said the car just too tight. He said especially in 3 and 4, I can't run the bottom, which is what I want to run. Too tight down there, Rick.
Riding along with Kyle Larson right up against the wall. Kyle Larson rebounding again after having to start at the back of the pack, already up to 7th.
Really, the question now, Rick, is very simple. We are on a 34-lap green flag run. There's 35 laps to go. What we've talked about it, risk versus reward. If you're the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, do you pit early and try to gain time on Chase Elliott? That's how that team won Atlanta. But if the caution comes out, you've thrown away very important points. What's better, a good run or trying to get the guaranteed berth in the round of 12 by winning here in Chicago?
34 laps to go, and a battle for second continues between the 48 and the 78 as we go NASCAR nonstop.
green flag pit stops are underway here at Chicagoland. That's the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. His car was a little bit free. You saw the wrench go in. They made a chassis adjustment. It'll also be 4 Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel as green flag stops are about to get busy down here.
And Tony Stewart on pit road now. The car's been tight throughout the course of the afternoon. They've tried and tried to adjust it, but just have not gotten the car freed up enough for Tony Stewart's liking. Once again, a chassis adjustment on the wedge adjustment on the right side, a 4-tire change as well. Marty?
They were planning to leave Chase Elliott out a little bit longer, but Alan Gustafson making the call to bring him down pit road right now, sort of negating that advantage that the 48 might have had by pitting early. For the 4th time today, it'll be 4 Goodyear tires and no changes to the chassis for Chase Elliott. Pretty happy with it out front, 12-9 on the stop.
So really, this is what it's all about right here. Alan Gustafson making the call. We saw the 48 on pit road a lap ago. The 24 pits 1 lap later, and it's going to all for naught because Jimmy Johnson too fast on pit road for the 6-time champion.
And if they blend out, the 24 is going to get out in front of the 48. So that would have been for the race lead. And you're just hearing the frustration, Marty.
Kyle Larson on pit road, a little frustrated with his car as well, so they're just sliding the nose in the middle of the corner. Round and a half of wedge on the right side, trying to free it up. 4 fresh Goodyear tires for that 42, who made the run from 40th into the top 5, Mike.
Denny Hamlin coming down pit road. He did not like the last adjustment that his crew chief Mike Wheeler made, which is a wedge adjustment and air pressure. They'll go back on that a little bit here. 4-tire change as well for Hamlin. He was pretty happy with the balance of the race car. The only thing he said was that it was a little bit tight off. Air pressure only on that stop, Marty.
Like Greg Kozlowski told his crew chief Paul Wolfe, I just feel like we've lost something here at the end of the run. That's been their advantage all day long. Leaving pit road with an air pressure adjustment. Car just too tight, sliding the nose in 3 and 4 especially. Joey Logano coming down pit road. They have had a very solid day, coming off of 5 straight top 10s, their longest streak of the season. And this is the time of the year when you want to be consistent. Right now for Logano, car too loose in and loose off. They have fixed the middle of the corner for that 22 car. They're doing a wedge adjustment, also an air pressure adjustment, trying to tighten up that 22 car. That's what they've been struggling with all afternoon long. 11-6 on the stop.
Great stop, and now the battle is going to be between the 24 and the 78. When all of the pit stops cycle through, there's a few that are staying out there, hoping that a caution may come out and trap all of the drivers that had gone onto pit road for these early pit stops. They're hoping that they could trap them a lap down and they would have to use the wave around.
What a huge mistake by Jimmy Johnson, speeding on pit road. We talked about it, not being able to execute in this last, in this year. Basically, they haven't had fast cars, and when they did have them, they haven't been able to execute. Another example, it just doesn't feel like they're on their game this year.
It was interesting watching the 78 pitting, Jeff. He wanted to pit at the same time that Jimmy Johnson did, but he was actually passing him. Well, there's 3 wide right there, and so he couldn't do it. But when he pitted the next lap, it was a very smooth stop on and off pit road. Interesting also is that earlier in the day, he had a little trouble getting the car out of gear when he came to pit road, and the car skid to a stop just in time before he went over the line. No such problem this time, and now it's up to Truex to go track down Chase Elliott.
The gap between the 78 and the 24, 2 seconds separate the top 2. You're watching NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing from Chicagoland. The telecast presented by Toyota. And following the race, stay tuned for NASCAR America post-race show presented by Advanced Auto Parts. Then Team Penske running for the IndyCar Championship. And be sure to catch Victory Lap at 9:30 p.m. on NBCSN to wrap up the entire day's activities.
And there's going to be a lot to talk about between who could possibly win this race and who has lost points. We have Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart a lap down, giving up points, and perhaps Chase Elliott getting his first ever win with 21 to go, trying to hold off the 78 of Martin Truex Jr.
We will tell you that Alex Bowman has stayed on the racetrack, so he is still scored as the race leader, but has to come to pit road. So he is just hoping that a caution would come out that would put all of these cars that are behind him at least a lap down. There's quite a few. Only right now 11 cars on the lead lap. But that includes Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr. Those two are running second and third right now.
And remember that car, he's not in a chase. He has nothing to lose. He has no risk versus reward. Take a gamble. Take a gamble. Try to make something happen. Good call. Try to make a win.
Right. Absolutely. And it just, these two cars are fighting traffic. Chase Elliott's doing a nice job working through traffic. Their gap seems to come and go with who got traffic clean. Last lap, Chase Elliott had a nice clean run through traffic. Martin Truex Jr. did not. He lost about 0.2 of a second to the race, or not the race leader, but the second place.
It's so important. You have to put your car where it's the fastest, and if you catch a slower car and he's running your line, you can't, if you go around him on the outside, then you're way slow. So wherever you catch those cars, the timing of that's so important.
Chase Elliott taking over for the retired Jeff Gordon in the 24, the famous 24 that Jeff Gordon won championships in so many races. And now looking for his first ever win in the Sprint Cup Series, and couldn't happen in the first race of the chase that he makes as a rookie. Big story for Chase Elliott. So tough on himself as far as the last time he was in position to get a win at Michigan. It was a restart. And he said it was my fault. I didn't get that win. I did it wrong. As Alex Bowman has come to pit road now. Dave.
Greg Ice finally called his driver to pit road, knowing that they had to get fuel in this car to make it to the end. A slight wedge. It has been a loose race car all day, but a good job by Alex Bowman. He's been in the top 10 all afternoon long.
And with that, Chase Elliott out in front. Has a 1.4 second lead. That's 0.6 better than when we went away about 6 laps ago. There is the gap. 300 feet. Separating 1 and 2. Martin Truex Jr., one of the fastest cars all day long. And now Chase Elliott will try to hold him off. Alex Bowman blending back out onto the racetrack.
We got the 4 Kevin Harvick. He's out there playing the same strategy that Alex Bowman did. He's trying to catch that caution. He's in 8th spot right now, but just a few laps, he's going to have to pit.
Kevin Harvick stayed out. He was last on pit road on lap 193. So 58 laps. We mentioned the fuel window right around 57 to 60, and Harvick will have to pit now. 16 laps to go. Every point very important for all of the chasers. And right now, Kevin Harvick not having things fall his way as he's back on pit road. Kelly.
Yeah, not the start to the chase that Kevin Harvick was looking for. He worked his way up through the field after starting from the rear and then had a poorly timed caution while they were on pit road. They tried to stretch it as long as they could this time around, hoping a caution would come out. It did not. They went as long as they could. You see right there was just a 4-tire and fuel stop for Kevin Harvick.
The gap, 1.6 seconds separating Elliott and Truex Jr. as we go NASCAR nonstop. the gap between Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., 250 feet. He's made up 50 feet on the racetrack. Does he have enough time, though? 11 laps to go. Chase Elliott looking for his first win. Martin Truex Jr. wanting to start out with that free pass into the round of 12. Jeff Gordon on top of the 24 pit box, making that number famous for Hendrick Motorsports. Marty.
And Rick, nobody has won in the number 24 except for the man on the left side of the screen. That may change in 11 laps. Chase told me earlier this week he has leaned on Jeff Gordon, and the fact that Jeff has been in the car this year has been a tremendous help to him. But in the last few weeks, he's asked him about his experience last year in the chase. Remember, Jeff Gordon won a must-win race at Martinsville and went on to battle for the championship at Homestead, Miami. He said, that experience is huge for me to lean on. So far, though, Dad Bill and Mom Cindy not around. They're sitting in Chase's coach, I'm sure nervous, pacing right now as their son 10 laps away from a win. Rick Hendrick watching on. Can Chase Elliott hold off Martin Truex Jr. and get his first career win?
Well, he needs to keep doing what he just did right there. A great pass on Casey Mears in the 13 without giving up lap time. As we see the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. start to climb the hill, starting running the middle and the top groove. He has to find something. He can't follow the 24 around the bottom. He has to try to find a place that the 78 has a little bit more speed.
The gap closing just a bit, though. It was over 2 seconds between the two. Then it got down to 1 second the last time they went by the finish line. And now with just 8 laps to go, the gap 9/10 of a second. Dave.
And Rick, the theme once again today for Martin Truex Jr., overcoming. But this team does that every week. Remember, it's based in Denver, Colorado, so they've got to take their hauler from way out west back to the east. It was kind of a break this week coming to Chicagoland, but overcoming the theme today and certainly all year long for this group from Denver that just seems to try harder and find a way to get to the front.
And interesting, the 42 of Kyle Larson on pit road now. They go to the right side to change right side tires. Marty.
And Rick, it's a right front problem. Kyle said it feels like the right front is going down or going away. So just to be conservative, remember, battling for a championship, Chad Johnson made the call to bring him to pit road in case that right front was indeed going down.
I like that decision. We saw last year with the 4 flat tire cost him a lot of points. While pitting will definitely hurt Kyle Larson, it'll be nowhere near as big a hit as if he does have an issue on the racetrack.
You just hope when you come in you find something wrong.
Yeah.
You know, that's the scary part as a driver. You complain, you say something's wrong, you come in, they take the tire off, and they find nothing wrong. And that's just such a difficult position for the driver to be in.
Every point matters. And right now, most important for Chase Elliott is the possibility of having the pass into the round of 12. A win and you advance. Chase Elliott still looking for his first Sprint Cup Series win, and now just 5 laps away from that. The gap a little bit further that time. 1.1 seconds between Chase Elliott and Martin Truex Jr.
We talked about Martin Truex Jr. He's led the most laps on these 1.5 miles, so Chase Elliott knows that he has a very, very stiff competitor behind him. He's going to have to be one of the very best to get his first win, but that's how it happens. You typically get your first win. They're never easy. You have to beat the very best. We have a caution. We have a caution.
Caution comes out, and it's for the 95. Michael McDowell's right front blows, and the right front fender completely comes off.
And that first victory just became even more difficult to get. So now we're going to have decisions to make by the teams. Do I pit? Do I not pit? Chase Elliott's going to have that right restart. This is going to be a tough decision because when you're the leader, Steve, there's so many people on the track that have so much that they need to gain. If you pit, they stay out. So this is a very tough call.
Well, you mentioned it. It's all moved from the driver's seat to on top of the pit boxes. The decisions. Alan Gustafson, the crew chief for Chase Elliott, the race leader. Cole Pern, the crew chief for Martin Truex Jr. And don't forget, back in third, Denny Hamlin in the 11. He showed some speed. He won this race a year ago. Do you pit? Do you not? And like you said, it's so difficult because whatever the 24 does, a majority will do the different. If he stays out, who comes to pit road? Fresh tires will be better, but will he have enough gap? If he feels he has to have fresh tires, how many stay out? I don't believe you can win if you don't restart in the front 2 or 3 rows.
And look at these guys. They're already thinking about the restart. You see the 78 of Martin Truex. He was swerving his car back and forth. The 24 car, he was swerving his car back and forth. They're already trying to get those tires clean.
Saw a lot of the debris in 3 and 4 as these guys went by. They want to keep their tires as clean as possible. There's part of the 95 of Michael McDowell that came off when that right front tire blew.
And Rick, with coming to 3 to go right now, by the time NASCAR opens pit road, gives the teams to pit, and restarts this race, I really think we're going to be in NASCAR overtime, which that's another thing the crew chiefs has to take into account. That would be only 2 laps, assuming they can get to that line. So how long you going to run? The issue of staying out is this is a wide racetrack.
Yeah.
We've seen multiple grooves. We saw Kyle Larson last week at Richmond storm through the field on a short track to come all the way back to second. All of these drivers have to make a decision.
Look at the 78. That debris is right in the middle of the racetrack. He quits turning the car. Looks like he may have run over. Yeah, he did run over some of it.
Yep. Saw some of the debris flying up behind the 78 as he had gone over it.
And another chase racer we need to talk about, Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart got the free pass with this caution, so that puts him back in the lead lap.
That will mean 16 cars on the lead lap with the free pass, and then drivers that are probably going to take the wave around in this situation.
And Rick, this has so much to do with the race winner, but just not who's going to win the race. Think about it. In 2 races, we're going to eliminate 4 drivers. The field will go down to the round of 12. We have 12 of the top 14 are currently Chase drivers. So not just Chase Elliott, but what about Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon? These decisions can lead to a lot of points, either plus or minus.
You see the Chase grid and where they currently are running on the track. The gap between 14th, 16th, back to Tony Stewart. Kyle Larson 18th, Kevin Harvick 19th, Chris Buescher 28th. Dave.
Truex is going to come to pit road following leader Chase Elliott. Now it's up to the crew. Can they maintain position, get all the lug nuts tight, or perhaps pick up a spot for Martin Truex Jr.? He'll take 4. Mike.
Mike Wheeler, crew chief for Denny Hamlin, asking his driver, how good are your tires? He said they were just okay. That made the decision easy. Down pit road for fresh rubber on the 11 car. They're on pit road, as are the other leaders. Marty?
Pit stops that could decide chase race number 1, and a little bit of a fumble on the 24 stop. The carrier on the rear missed that tire as it was handed to him. They're going to make no changes here for Joey Logano. Still a little bit too free, but still a good stop for the 24. Now let's see who wins that race off pit road. It'll be the 78 of Martin Truex Jr., Rick.
Truex Jr. wins the race off of pit road. Chase Elliott loses a spot. A couple drivers stayed out on the racetrack, though.
Well, Ryan Blaney, we had mentioned that he ran longer than most people, so his green flag pit stop was a little bit later. It was about 15 laps later. So what's Ryan Blaney say? You know what? Rookie year, let's try to win a race. So he stays on the racetrack. Ryan Blaney will line up as the leader of the race. Another non-chaser, Casey Kane, misses the chase. A disappointing year for Casey Kane, but we've seen Hendrick Motorsports speed today. We've talked a lot about Chase Elliott, a lot about Jimmy Johnson. Well, here's Casey Kane, another Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, who will start on the front row next to Ryan Blaney.
And a chaser that just stayed out as well, Carl Edwards. He decided to stay on the racetrack, so he will be the first guy that's in the championship battle starting on older tires.
Well, and you know what that does? Chase Elliott, we talk about pit stops. If Chase Elliott is the first car off pit road, he lines up outside of row 2, a position that I think he could win from. Gets to the top, clears those old tires, can win the race. His pit crew loses 1 spot on pit road. He now lines up inside of the 3rd row. That's totally different, Jeff. When they go down into turn 1, he's going to be boxed in. He won't be able to use those fresh tires. So I think that pit stop made Martin Truex Jr. a favorite over Chase Elliott.
A couple of the chasers making their way onto pit road now in 42 and the 4 of Kevin Harvick. Kelly?
Yeah, and you can see now Kevin Harvick down on pit road. Haven't heard him say a whole lot over the radio after he was pretty unhappy with his race car throughout much of the day. 4-tire stop for Kevin Harvick, Marty.
Kelly, that wound up being a bad right front tire. It did go down for the 42 car of Kyle Larson. Actually, it was shredded, and that was the problem. So they're going to come in here, take on 4 fresh Goodyear tires. Why not? See what they can do, Mike.
Tony Stewart on pit road as well for fresh rubber and fuel. A complete service on the right side. They go to left side. A 4-tire change for Tony Stewart as he tries to mount a charge here and gain as many possible points as he can here in the Chase Open.
Well, we talked about this race a year ago. Denny Hamlin was the race winner. Well, he did it in the same manner Carl Edwards is trying to do it today. So caution comes out very late, and Denny Hamlin decides to, no, I'm not going to pit. Takes a hard right, stays on the racetrack. He restarts in the 3rd position, right there behind who? But the 24 of Jeff Gordon. A great restart, gets to the bottom, clears those 2 cars on the front row, goes on to win the race. Who's going to stay out and restart 3rd today? But none other than Denny Hamlin's teammate, Carl Edwards. Can he use that same sort of tactic, that same sort of strategy, get a good restart, and perhaps win this race?
The 19 trying the same strategy. Carl Edwards, can he make it work? But what about Ryan Blaney, another young driver, 22 years old, out of High Point, North Carolina. Father Dave Blaney, former driver in the Sprint Cup Series.
Difficulty right now for Blaney, for Kane, for Edwards. They have older tires, which means when they're trying to accelerate, when they get into that restart zone, their rear tires are not going to hook up. They're going to have to try to find a way to keep from spinning those rear tires and gain momentum. If not, the pack's going to be coming from behind. They're going to have the restart of their lives to make this thing work.
Let's listen into the 19 radio just moments ago.
Time to find a way, man. If we're going to dig down deep, we're going to get this. Tempo. We live for days like this. This is exciting.
Absolutely exciting. And think about the 22-year-old and Ryan Blaney looking for his first win. He's got Casey Kane on his outside. Needs a perfect restart. Has to have the perfect restart as they come up on the overtime line on the back straight. If they get to the overtime line and there isn't a caution that comes out, they will then race around for one more lap, and that will determine who ends up winning this race. If they don't get to the overtime line before a caution comes out, they will try it one more time. Continue until they get a clean restart.
That's right. Chase Elliott's going to have to lay back a little bit here, try to time the restart, try to get some momentum on the 19. Remember, this big, wide, flat apron on the bottom of the front straightaway, you can use that to try to make a pass.
2 by 2. Ryan Blaney on the inside. Casey Kane on the outside. Coming into the restart zone. Green flag back in the air. We're in overtime. Sponsored by Credit One Bank.
Blaney with a great restart. Truex making it 3 wide.
Fresh tires on the outside for the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. 4 wide behind him, Martin Truex Jr. sailing through turn 2 and down the back stretch he goes, trying to take the lead away as they go into 3. They made it past the overtime line. Martin Truex Jr. so strong early in the race, led 30 laps and has had to work his way back up front, but now he's done it out in front. White flag in the air one more time around.
Clear about 10 over to 21. Nice and smooth down the back.
Chasers that are able to win a race will advance to the next round. That next round, the round of 12. Martin Truex Jr. has fought through adversity once again. His career has been fighting through adversity, and he'll win at Chicagoland.
Unreal, man, unreal. Remember to swerve on the track. Remember to swerve on the track. Baby! Woo! Big crew, baby! Yeah!
Giving credit to the pit crew right away.
Man, picture. Woo!
Talked to him this week. His pit crew has been under fire a little bit. They've not had the best pit stops. He told me he believed in his pit crew. They took accountability when things didn't go well. So see Sherry Polish's girlfriend very excited. He believed in his pit crew even when other people didn't.
They have teal and gold on the wheel. There's 15 drivers out there, and most importantly, of course, is Martin Truex's wheel. Sherry Pollock's in remission from ovarian cancer as they are bringing awareness throughout the whole month of September to ovarian cancer as well as childhood cancer. And the tears once again of joy from Sherry Pollock's has fought and fought and fought. Martin Truex Jr. would fly home from the racetrack so that he could be in the hospital with Sherry Pollock as she was going through cancer treatment. And once again, she will have the opportunity to celebrate in victory lane with Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. Already his 3rd win of the 2016 season. This is the first time he has ever won a chase race. Martin Truex Jr. celebrating Chicagoland Speedway. The moment presented by Sunoco, fueling victories all season long. And Martin, he just left his car and it started rolling away as he was running to get the checkered flag.
A lot of teams like that car to roll into their pit, take it home with them.
What a performance again by Martin Truex Jr. A great restart. The advantage, that outside line.
Came down to pit stops, Rick. We talked about that. The 78 pit crew got Martin Truex Jr. off pit road first with fresh tires, restarting 4th versus 5th, which is where Chase Elliott restarted, won the 78 the race. He did what he needed to do as a driver, but that position on the restart gave him that opportunity to get to the high side and clear the 21.
With that win, Martin Truex Jr. advances. He has a spot now in the round of 12. The ones this race hurt today: Chris Buescher, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Larson. All 3 of those drivers at least a lap down. The checkered flag flew.
Carl Edwards stayed out. He started in 3rd. He fell all the way back to 15th place.
What an incredible run for Martin Truex Jr. He battled back from a tire that went down. He was able to feel it before it blew. He got to pit road, got a lap down, but fought back. And through pit strategy, was able to give himself a shot at the title. And then, when it came down to it, the team got the best pit stop. They needed it all day. Martin Truex Jr. capitalized. He'll be in victory lane. Martin Truex Jr. weaving his way through the cars on pit road, trying to get to victory lane. They'll be checking the lug nuts to make sure that he has at least 17 on there. If he have 18 or more, he's going to be okay as far as the crew chief will be sticking around. If he has less than 17 that are tight, that are secure on there, they've talked about potentially taking away the advancement into the next round, but he also has to get through the laser inspection. But right now, all he's thinking about is getting to victory lane and celebrating with his team. What an incredible season already in 2016 that this team has had.
And this is the moment. when everyone asks, is the hard work worth it? Are the late hours worth it? Are the sacrifices worth it? I've always found this moment right here, you pull into pit road or in the victory lane, your crew sees the driver sees the crew. This is the most special moment in racing. Look how happy Martin Truex Jr. is.
Pulls the helmet and Hans device off.
That and a late race win. They're always most exciting.
There's Sherry leaning into the car, congratulating Martin Truex Jr. on another win. Dave.
Here he comes, Rick. He's gotten unbuckled. Oh, he's got to get the glasses on first. That's very important. He's got the cue to come do what he wants to do this afternoon, and that is celebrate. And you look right back at that bunch. Yep, there it is. Talk about a team effort from start to finish, and that last pit stop, obviously the clincher.
Oh my goodness, Darlington all over again, right? So I guess racing guys don't want us leading too much. They got to make it difficult on us. But what can I say about everybody? Furnace Row Racing, Toyota TRD, Bass Pro Shops, Denver Mattress, Furniture Row. I mean, just everybody that makes this possible. Texture on our friends there, Sprint, the fans. Fans have given us a ton of support, not only over the years, but the last two, and it's definitely helped us. So just, man, this feels good. It's
Describe the relief. You're done with round one.
Well, we got more races to win, and we can win some. So just, what can I say? I mean, so many people to thank, and so many people that are responsible for this. And I'm a lucky guy to get to drive this Black 78. And Cole Pern, Jazzy, everybody on this team, the pit crew, you know, Barney for giving us everything we need. Did I thank TRD? Engines were incredible again. Andy Graves, all those guys are doing a heck of a job. Everybody at JGR building chassis and having competition meetings with us and all that good stuff and helping us out. It's been an awesome relationship. So what can I say, man? It's this is the way we want to start it off, and feels awesome.
Martin, what were you thinking early on when you had to come to pit road for that tire going down?
Just don't give up. Just keep digging. And there was a long way to go at that point, you know. And I was like, you know, on one hand, it was like, here the bad luck's going to bite us again, and on the other, it was like we got a lot of time to make it up. So we're lucky it happened early, and we were able to have an awesome race car all day and just keep working on it. We, in the middle of the race, we weren't that good, and we got back in traffic, and we struggled a bit. And Harvick run into us and bent our fender, I think, on purpose, and had to come back from that. So all in all, it's just an unbelievable day, and total team effort. That's what it's going to take to win a championship.
And you kick off the work toward Childhood Ovarian Cancer Month, September, with a win here in Victory Lane. We know those steering wheels are going to get auctioned off in October. What does it mean to you two to start it this way?
Well, it's just it's unbelievable. I'm just really proud of Sherry for what she's done, and you know, just happy to be a part of it. I got to thank all the guys that brought their steering wheels out again this weekend. I think there was 15 guys out there today with their steering wheels, and you know, we got ours. And Johnny Morris already said he wanted to buy the one from Darlington, and I think it's the same one, so it's got 2 wins on it now, buddy. And it's just amazing to see what Sherry's been through and what she's doing and how hard she's working to help others. It's really neat to be a part of that.
Overcoming a big theme both on the racetrack and in his personal life, Martin Truex wins today at Chicagoland.
Understandably, enthusiasm.
It has been an incredible season already. You talk about in golf majors. Well, Martin Truex Jr. has won the Coke 600 at Charlotte, Southern 500 at Darlington, and now the first race of the chase here at Chicagoland. Races just don't get bigger, and he has risen every single time the challenge has been presented to him. It's been an incredible day for him as well. He was out front, led laps, and they had an issue with the right front tire, had to come to pit road, lost a lap, was able to get it back when Brian Scott brought out the caution.
Got that lucky break with get the free pass. Brian Scott had to spin off turn 4. I put him in position to get his lap back. Then he and Harvick raced on the back straightaway. You heard him refer to the contact on the back straightaway. This is what he was talking about. He showed his displeasure with his hand out the window.
And then the late caution. Chase Elliott looked like he had the race in control, but the late caution brought the cars to pit road, and the pit crew of the 78 had the stop that they needed. A clean stop, and beats the 24 off pit road, giving him the first car on fresh tires, and Martin Truex did a marvelous job in the restart, getting the outside of the 5 and eventually passing the 21 of Ryan Blaney.
Took advantage of those fresher tires and was able to just drive past 22-year-old Ryan Blaney. And Martin Truex Jr. once again in victory lane. This time his first chase win. Take a look at the chase grid after race 1. With the win, Martin Truex Jr. will advance to the round of 12. And then the points, so important. Austin Dillon, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher. They're the bottom 4 after 3 races. The bottom 4 in points do not advance into that round of 12. Let's hear from the guy who was out front for 75 laps today. He's with Marty.
And Rick, nobody leaves Chicagoland more disappointed than Chase Elliott. So what was going through your mind when that caution came out, when it looked like the race was yours, Chase?
I expect it. Nothing's yours until it's over. So, man, that's part of life, man. You're not dumb. We've all watched this stuff long enough. We know these races don't go green that long, and we see more cautions come out at the end of these races than we do not. So that's just part of it, man. You got to expect it, be able to embrace it, and move forward. I feel like we did a good job controlling the things that we could control today. Had a fast Napa Chevy. Appreciate everybody's hard work this weekend. Hendrick was strong. That's good to see. And like I said, there's some things you just can't control with the amount of guys that stay out and where you line up on a restart. So, we played the cards we were dealt, and it came up short.
You guys did lose a spot on that final pit stop. Had you started 4th, where Truex started, do you feel like you could have won the race?
Well, if one less guy had stayed out, then we would have been 4th. So you never know how things are going to play out. Obviously, you hate to lose a spot on pit road, but our guys did a good job all day. They were solid, and those are the kind of days we have to have on pit road. So we'll take it as motivation to move forward.
How encouraged are you by the speed the 24 brought this weekend?
Yeah, we're definitely proud of it, man. We're proud of that. We're proud of the run we had today. Obviously, hate to come up short, but that's part of life some days. But we were fast, and I think that's something to be happy about. And we can move forward to Loudon with with some motivation, I think, and get ready to get going.
Well, it looked like the race was his, but Chase Elliott winds up finishing 3rd this afternoon, Rick.
And I'm very impressed with Chase Elliott in the way he took that situation that was dealt to him. They had a bad pit stop. He didn't get that position that he wanted, but so many times we hear him get down on himself. But right there, he was very positive.
Yeah, and he took the pressure off the pit crew.
Absolutely.
He didn't point the finger right at him. He said, hey, look, if one more guy would have pitted, then we would have started in that row. So he took the pressure off that crew, and that's what he's done all year long. At his young age, he said, I got to be better. I got to be better. He has taken the attention away from his pit crew and put it directly on him.
Well, you mentioned his young age. 20 years old. He just basically, as a 20-year-old man, took all the positives, made no excuse for the negatives, said what this team needed to do better, took the excitement of having speed in his race car, moving forward to try to move out of this round of 16. That is the Chase Elliott I think everybody wanted to see after a race, and that was a great interview. Looking forward to New Hampshire.
And he's exceptionally disappointed.
Right.
I mean, he is exceptionally disappointed with not getting this win, but he knows there's another race next week, and he's putting his attention to that already.
He was one of the drivers that came in without bonus points, but finishing 3rd in this one. Very impressive points day for Chase Elliott, but ultimately the win goes to Martin Truex Jr. Let's go now.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our fans for your support, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast.